Very sudden.
I don't know. He kind of warned us that the show was starting.
Whoa,
Hello.
whoa, that was sudden.
And welcome to the Wednesday
Wow.
Club. Or as our European Wednesdays has suggested we should call it today, the Thursday Club.
Thursday Club. Good morning, Thursday Club.
Good morning, Thursday
Because
Club.
that's when you'll be watching it, and we are finally crossing the pond with our comic book subject matter to talk some Euro comics with a very special guest.
Hi, I'm Michelle. If anybody doesn't know me, I run social for Nerdist, so I just came across the hall. Very easy to be here. I'm so excited to talk about like one of my favorite things.
Yay! We've been hoping to do this episode for a while.
Yeah, a year now.
Yeah, about a year.
It's okay. There's plenty of stuff to talk about.
Yes!
It's a great thing.
It's intimidating. This is intimidating for me. I feel intimidated. I've read some of these books, and I feel intimidated.
I mean, I have not read all of these, so like by no means am I like the be-all and end-all expert, but I have like a good grip on some of it. But that's like the cool thing about
that is
European
Club
comics
brand,
is
so.
like there's
Remember
so
the
much
manga
There's so
episode?
much.
That'll be me here.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have a chance to read hardly anything this week.
Well, this
because
is
Henry kept me busy.
essentially. I think we should God willing and the creek don't rise. We're going to revisit this topic many, many times, and I'm excited about this one specifically because this is an entire world of comics, and there is just as much to know about it as we do about the Office changes in 1972 that led to blah 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 at Marvel and DC, and that's sort of for all three of us is territory we're just getting into, and it's very, very, very exciting. So we will be scratching the surface today. Of primarily Franco-Belgian comics tradition.
Yeah.
And we're really excited to get into that. But first, I think we have some Daily Wednesday.
Ooh, 73 JT says, welcome to the one.
Oh, thank you.
Hey!
Hey,
Good graphic.
graphic.
I like that your graphics come with theme music.
We
We supply our own music.
All right. Handle with care. This was apparently arrived. Liz probably knows what it is. I don't yet.
Yeah, none of us know what it is.
We were
Liz
not-
wouldn't, I saw it on Liz's desk, and I was like, what is this? And she's like, stop! Go away! I did. Yeah, you really did.
Whoa.
all the way up there. Oh, wait.
I feel
Wait.
this is
What?
Yeah.
what?
There's a velveteen bag, a note,
Ew.
and what appears to be some comic books.
Is this a lady and a unicorn? What am I seeing?
I mean, it kind of, yeah.
Let me
It
see.
is unicorn-ish.
It's very. I'm having that Rorschach. What do you
Ooh,
see?
that is.
That is a
unicorn.
unicorn, and that is a lady standing
look
next
like-
to a unicorn.
Guinevere next to a...
Yeah, it's very Guinevere.
It's the Lady of
Sir
Shalott
Gawain in
next
the
to
Green
a
Knight.
unicorn.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. This is.
So, a couple of these labeled for me.
Oh my God, there's some old ones in there. Yeah.
I saw something way too cool in there. Okay, no. Oh no.
Wait to turn them over, Tal.
Is this me?
Wait to turn them over, Matt.
Okay.
Uh,
I feel like I should share one with Michelle. Here, you
no,
take one of
please.
mine.
Dear Wednesday Club, I was at the book resale store, is what I think this is, possibly show, and found these and thought of you. 2 comics for each of you. Matt, please stop Amy and Taliesin from fighting over her second comic.
Ooh, what does that mean?
Territorial advantage mine. Just saying.
+1 to
Possession is
territory?
9/10 or whatever. A very happy birthday to each of you. Okay.
That's fair. I'm into
Taliesin,
that.
the occult episode made my decision. We'll come back to some of this. I'm
Okay.
trying to decide how much to read as we go.
I will
Wait, are you guys
see.
all May birthdays?
No, no.
I think this is just covering all of the birthdays.
Covering all of
that's
them.
fine.
Yeah, but it's not until
You
October.
nailed it for me.
January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also a May birthdays.
Yay, when's yours?
25th.
Neat. Oh, Star Wars.
Coming up.
Yeah, I know.
Aw.
Born on Star Wars Day. It's great.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Are we?
So I'm gonna read these are from Aromia Flies. Hi. I got The Adventures of Doris Nelson, Atomic Housewife.
That's incredible.
Oh my
Look at that
God.
artwork.
I don't know what it is, but I'm really excited about it.
She has a star rod. That's impressive.
This time, Mother knows best with the atomic symbol all over. I'm really excited. This looks wonderful.
That looks incredible.
That's my jam.
And this, what appears to be maybe a 1989 Doctor Who Star Trek parody crossover comic?
Nice.
What? It's Doctor Whom and Star Wreck.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
We're gonna have to grab Eric before he leaves.
And Matt has
the
been
office.
specifically instructed to make sure that I win this. I think that's how I read that instruction.
Yeah, obviously.
I'll just keep baby boy over here.
Let me see if I got the year right on that, because I'm just taking a
Definitely
guess from the wonderful technology.
Oh my God!
Look at the scan. And,
Oh, 1990.
Oh, there you go.
The final part of which says, does anyone ever actually bother to read this? Person who wrote this in 1990, your efforts have been rewarded.
Oh my God!
It's an unlicensed satire of you know what and that other guy. Please don't sue us.
I think they came through on that one.
yeah, we hope.
Well, this is lovely. Okay, what'd you guys
that's so
get?
nice. All right, you go next.
All right, I got.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So I got the Marvel Comics action and intrigue from the pages of Thunderbolt, Citizen V, and the V Battalion Special,
awesome.
which I read back in the day, but I don't have anymore. And then, holy shit, I got Action Comics 328, and I am a big fan of a weird Superman cover.
Yeah.
Of Superman covers. There's an art and feel to a Superman cover that's very, very specific, which is that they have a ridiculous image that makes no damn sense and a bunch of word bubbles explaining some sort of.
Pull this out. I want to see
Oh, yeah.
when it was made and who the editors are, and I want to
The
see
spy
it.
monitor shows our plot worked. We managed to secretly coat Superman's hands with chemicals that made him a living doomsday bomb. When he clapped his hands to applaud the Superman Day parade, he detonated a blast and wiped out Metropolis.
I'm sorry.
Next position on the cover.
Yeah.
That was amazing, that paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mightiest man on Earth becomes the deadliest in Superman's Hands of Doom.
Fancy.
And they got him to clap for a parade?
65.
65.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah.
So is this
Look at all that great look at all that great Kryptonian.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Look at all those great Kryptonian styles down there.
Superman's Hands of Doom.
Yep.
Cool.
As I shake too much.
Yeah,
there we
That's
go.
incredible.
Oh yeah, no attack.
Is this
Wait, Matt,
Mort
I'm
or
gonna
Jewel?
give you this one
no.
so you have two to flip over.
No.
Yeah.
No, yes,
I want
do
you to
it.
please flip that one.
All
Please.
right.
Flip it over. What else is it? Oh my God. Yes.
I don't know who this is, but his name is Jason Blood, and I'm
demon.
already super on
Oh, I am
board.
so on board for this. It looks like. Is this?
It's Tetragon.
No, but is that? That looks like Kirby art to me.
It could be. It's very Kirby.
It's
It's
from the
very-
creation. I don't know what's wrong.
Yeah.
Kirby-ish.
You have to open it up to see. But,
Oh yeah. Well, hold on.
Yeah, go for
Thank
it.
you for flipping that for me, Michelle.
Oh, please, anytime.
And then.
Yeah, share with the audience.
Oh my God! Vote Loki.
Someday we'll get like
Oh my
GoPros
God.
that just sit on our shoulders so we can completely
Oh,
abandon
yeah.
our.
This book was actually a lot of fun. Vote
This
Loki.
is a recent book.
Yeah, that's a
I was a
recent
big-
book.
I was a
That's-
big fan of that
But
book.
I don't remember that cover.
There you go. Well, there we go. There we go. We did it. Oh my God.
Teamwork.
Cat punching Loki in the face. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Here for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Loki
Sassy little
fans.
falcon in the corner.
Etrigan's a really fun character. He speaks entirely in rhyme.
Yeah.
Which is.
Oh, that sounds like my
One
jam.
of those things where they added it later and we all can't imagine him without it now, where he's
Yeah.
like, obviously, Etrigan the Demon. Yes, Jason Blood turns into Etrigan the Demon. It's a curse. It's a whole
Yeah.
That sounds incredible. I'm
Yeah,
on board.
it's
yeah.
real good.
Stuff. It's good stuff.
Yep.
All right, now I'm going to open the bag. Apparently, I have a funny feeling.
What's in the bag? What's in the bag?
Taliesin, the occult episode made my decision. Enjoy my old cards. They are full of intuition,
that's a great
love,
deck.
and magic given to me by a witch I worked for.
This
Aw,
is
that's really
this
very
is an
cool.
impressive deck. Holy cow! I'm looking at it upside down.
The art is really
We are
gorgeous,
again
yeah.
not going to share with you, the audience.
No, but I will in a moment. I'm just trying to find. I'm trying to find one of like a really.
Wow, those are beautiful.
Wow. Okay. This is just okay. This is, as somebody who is a big appreciator of like interesting tarot design, this is fascinating.
Why is it fascinating?
just look. You'll see as soon as it pops up, you'll see this is a very interesting. This is as soon as we get it.
It's very old schoolish.
There we are. That is
Okay,
a
best.
10 of discs, and it is literally. It's kind of the Addams Family.
It's like a spooky family photo. I'm
Yeah.
into it.
I'm like, what an interesting way to do that card. Oh my God, some of these are really.
A lady with multiple parrots.
Oh yeah,
And
no,
then
there's just
narrate,
like some
yeah.
really interesting decisions made on some of the. Oh wow,
Too cool.
I love this
really
kind of
cool.
stuff. Yeah, no, this is my jam. Oh, the Hierophant card.
Aw.
Oh look, Scanlan. It's,
Wait, which one? Which one's Scanlan?
Yeah, he looks a little
Prince of
bit-
Cups.
Yeah,
looks a little
sure,
bit like.
Prince of Cups.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, that is very scandalous.
All right.
Yeah.
Here we want
I don't know
one
what
more.
cups mean or what princes are.
Cups
can-
can mean a number of different things in tarot.
Cups tend to talk about, although emotional aptitude or anything in the realm of emotional intelligence.
That holds up.
Yeah. We'll do another Promethea episode at some point. We can really,
Yay!
which is the comic book way one learns tarot cards. It's Promethea.
And by the way, I was right.
Oh.
That is Jack Kirby.
It is Kirby.
I had forgotten that Kirby
Nice.
did Etrigan. That's why I was like, wait,
Oh,
is
yeah.
that Kirby?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
it's-
issue is that?
This is number 3 of volume 1.
Nice.
So
He's busy inventing.
when it was still a national periodical.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's
This is going to be. Oh yeah. No, if I'm not careful, I will just start reading this and like the rest of
Same.
my app.
Oh, it's so pretty.
And I love the Captain America cover because he's beating up Loki, and that's like, no, you're not Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah.
It's a specific.
Mister.
I love that it's credited even. It's trad after Kirby because it is the Captain America 1 cover, but done up with the new political menace of Loki.
I love it when they like
I love that when they pay homage.
pay homage. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love.
I'm trying to
it so
remember
much.
which because we had a name. There's Kid Loki. Is this Teen Loki then, or is
Teen
it?
Loki, I
It's
think.
Teen Loki at
Yeah.
that
Yeah, this is
point.
Teen Loki, Teen Bop.
Loki eras. We'll get into it.
We'll get in. There'll be a whole Loki episode at some point.
So I was gonna pass this off to someone else to read, but it is for me, and I may have just peeked in a little bit. I don't know how I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
she
through
peeked.
this. So, to our very own internet sensation, Amy Dallen, a nickname Jody Hauser gave me that will stick forever.
Oh, shit.
Thank you, Jody. I love you. As a thank you for all the knowledge you share with us every week, the Wednesdaisies in the Discord decided to pay it forward in honor of you and your birthday and make a collective donation to the National Girls Collaborative Project. Provides resources and mentorship across the country to underrepresented girls in K-12 to encourage them to pursue careers in STEM-related fields and build leadership skills. Hopefully this will help many girls to become their most enthusiastic science-learning selves. Holy shit. Now these wild, generous daisies, which never cease to amaze me, raised an amazing $1,150
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Oh my God.
for the National Girls Collaborative Project in honor of... I can't read this part. It's... and all the wonderful work you do promoting learning and science across the internet. I hope you have a great birthday and that this year is filled with many more awesome things to learn and share. Much love, Olivia, aka Meaning of Night. P.S. Shout out to Librarian Liz for running a donation pool to make it easier for folks. Thank you to both of you. I assume it's okay to read out the names? And I have some individual messages which I will have official permission to share with myself later. That's the opposite of sharing. The one where it's me and I get to read them. Words are not so good now. Donors, Meaning of Night, A. Cecilia, Lady Amphi, KB Tibbs, Cato, 101 Deadpool 1017, Fair Explorer, Elizabeth 957, Chandra VDG, Axel Lobo. I just realized it's Ax_Lobo. I've been calling you Axel Lobo for like a year. The Anna Key. Do you have an Anna, or is that a different key?
It's a different key.
Oh my God.
There are keys.
Patch,
There are
Janice
many
Mitchell,
keys.
Cranium Squirrel,
But I'm
Librarian
yours.
Liz, JJ Dane, Star Pilot 6, Japin Rose, Miss Sunflower, PFW Scott, Marimo Lemon Twist, Cillian, Tholomeres, Anomalous Bones, Type Air, Jeff M, and SpaceVex, or SP_AceVex. I've been calling you SpaceVex. Apparently you also have an underscore in your name. Guys, I don't know what to say. This is incredibly wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yay! That's awesome.
Who
Happy
wants
birthday,
to
the daisies
start
are
the
awesome.
Episode while I gather myself.
So, Michelle, tell us about yourself.
What's up, guys? I really love European comics, if you can't tell. Some of these are mine, like that one pile. Thank you to Amy and Taliesin for bringing others, because there's some stuff that I wanted, but it's a little bit expensive, so I'm glad that we have it. But my mom's side has some French on them, and I've just always been like a Francophile, like TV, movies, books, whatever, and I just got really into French comics, and they're awesome. I was telling Amy before the show started, if you do like Duolingo and want to learn another language, a really good thing to do actually is to read the comics in another language, because they're kind of like made for a younger audience. They're not as tough as a book. They're little bursts of sentences. Like I practiced my French by reading Tintin. Tintin is awesome. Don't be fooled and be like, Tintin is just for kids. It's really, really great, really smart adventures. There's a reason that these have stood the test of time. It's still like the #1 selling comic book in France, I think, is Tintin. I'm pretty sure.
I feel like it's probably close to a world record
When I went
holder.
I went to France like 2 years ago, and when I was in a French comic shop, like it was full of Tintin still. So that's like how you know it's pretty. And Asterix, which is on my other. Asterix is, for people who don't know, like as famous as Mickey Mouse in France. Like he is that popular.
Wow.
There's
I
a
think we
whole.
looked it up. There've been at least 13 movies.
Yeah, and like the Asterix movies are like you got cast in like a Disney movie. Like it's a big deal to be in an Asterix movie. Like really popular. French comedians are in them, and they're huge. Make a lot of money. There's a Park Asterix, which is a theme park devoted to him.
Can we go to there?
Which is in France is not a country known for its love of theme parks.
Yeah,
I mean, I say that
there's
comically, but
Disneyland
really.
Paris, which is north of Paris, and then there's Park Asterix, which is like 30 kilometers or so outside of Paris. So like those are the two big ones, but like Park Asterix has been around for longer. But Asterix is really cool. It's very French. There's so many characters now. I kind of stopped reading Asterix when I was a kid, but it's really silly. Kids love it. The movies are like, it's like a Disney movie for kids. The Asterix is just like in the middle of Rome and causing trouble. It's pretty great.
Yeah, so they take place in fantasy ancient France.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the land of Gaul, where the natives give the Romans tons of trouble.
Yeah. A lot of trouble. Asterix loves getting into trouble, but like the art style is so colorful and fun, and I don't know, it just like I really love it.
Yeah. There you go.
That's very classic French kind of style to have all those colors and lots of characters. Always so many characters.
There's a little bit of a Warner Brothers, classical Warner Brothers vibe.
Yeah, it's a little bit Looney Tunes-esque.
It's got the big caricatures. I would go in the other direction also, like an Osamu Tezuka kind of like.
Yeah.
Very caricatured.
There were two schools that I was reading about, and I'm not sure what Asterix is technically considered an example of the other one, but it certainly reminds me of like they're sort of two of the early cartooning schools that emerged from the Franco-Belgian scene were basically the Tintin style.
Yep.
Called Ligne Claire.
Yeah.
Ligene.
You got it.
Which is clear line.
Yeah.
Lines of pretty relatively even weight, not a lot of cross-hatching.
Yeah. Very clean art style.
Which sort of it shows off in layout and things like that. And
There
the
we
other
are.
style,
Yeah. Very clean, sharply drawn, not a lot of detail in the background. That will change over time in French comics. We'll get to that one.
and there was a similar school because two magazines were essentially running simultaneously before Asterix came around, but I think it still works as kind of an example of what there was. Spirou and Tintin were running basically at the same time. And the other side is what would give birth eventually to Asterix and to the Smurfs and all of this, and it sort of emphasized dynamic action and exaggerated poses and that sort of thing. Whereas, like, Tintin, while you're looking at, especially the characters are cartoony, they're sort of moving around in a realistic world where, like, boats look like boats and they travel in those ways that hint at realism, although they're deliberately departing from it in other ways. So those were, like, early on, two schools were already developing of French cartooning, even before the sort of cultural revolution let a lot of adult and mature content in, and new styles of drawing came to the fore.
Let me, do you want to do the non-French stuff first? I feel like that might be the easiest.
You are leading us down this river.
You have Black Sad, so I would love for you to talk about Black Sad.
Wow.
Black Sad is great.
So jumping to this is sort of the future from the
Spanish.
So yeah, Black Sad. I actually this was not my copy. I did not bring this copy because I forgot that this would have counted as a European comic. Which and this is something I've had a copy of for many years now. It's basically I suppose the best way to describe this is it's a traditional noir. Murder detective story. It's this beautiful traditional noir murder detective story if you can imagine it was set in Zootopia.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
It's animals.
It's easier to explain with time.
That's way too hard.
Actually, yeah.
I'm trying.
Far less complicated than I would have made it.
And like most of the comics we're talking about today, I have to keep turning pages because there's way too much hotness happening there and a lot of interesting editing.
Something we can show on the internet.
Yeah. So so I'm trying to find something that's
going to become more difficult as we get to my stuff.
So if you can see, I feel you. What's something that's really?
I mean, there's
here we go.
A cat in a trench coat, and he's like the hard-boiled detective, like a lot of classic American imagery, but they.
Yeah, he's very much like a Salinger character. If we can get the picture, I know we're going to be doing this camera. You can see it's a seedy bar. There's a pool hall happening. There's a.
But with dogs and cats.
Dogs, cats, pigs,
Snakes,
and it's really, if you're a fan of that classic noir, oh God, it's just like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but there's nothing as delightful on a certain level in this story of blood and murder and sex as it is of watching a cat put on a tie.
Yeah.
Just a cat getting dressed and putting on a tie.
He takes his job seriously.
Observational detail.
This is not a funny book. This is a dark, heavy. Most of these books have something.
Yeah, European comics, I would say, for the most part, can be kind of bleak a little bit. I wouldn't say gritty. Gritty isn't the word.
Not
but
necessarily.
they're grounded in a darkness, a lot of them, or they carry some weight to them. They carry a message. A lot of them have politics.
There's a communist subplot in this.
Yeah, a lot of political kind of subplots. But that reflects, the Europe of the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Just another.
It's interesting to read about the development of the industries, which is essentially inseparable from the history of the 20th century.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and this magazine ran along until literally wartime paper shortages prevented it from being made.
Yeah, it's John Blacksad, I think is the name of the detective in this book, and it's
he's great.
It's very much if you're a fan of the traditional 50s and 60s noir detective stories.
I think we have. Are there 3 books out?
I think there's
3 or 4.
And this is good. A brief talk about format, which is a distraction for me that is very easy to sink into. And the short answer to this is that in English there exist currently 3 books that you can buy.
Yes.
They collect, I believe, a total of 5 stories because the first 3 are in this one from the original. And this is an interesting, when you look at sort of a country or a comic book scene, a lot of how to talk about it comes out of how it was published. And I was mostly familiar with, essentially, this format, which you saw from Asterix. They are thin, like usually roughly 48 is the classic length pages.
I've seen a lot of 48 to 60 is kind of like the average.
And they're referred to often as albums. A graphic album. But what surprised me is that since the 80s, this has been an increasingly common way to publish your new story. Just put out one of these. But prior to that, they were essentially collections from weeklies. Because I kind of didn't realize that, because when they translate things and bring them abroad, they're almost never translating like the random weekly that would have had several different running stories and tune in next time. But it's much closer to the Japanese model than I had realized.
I was about to say, like, that sounds like what they do with the manga
and
in
we'll get to that with a lot of mine come from those.
But essentially, the history gets changed because Tintin shows up in a newspaper supplement, gets so popular that their publisher immediately starts putting these out. I don't have any, but most Tintins that you'll find, the classic ones, are this size. They are wildly successful. And so essentially little collections of more or less complete Tintin stories from the 30s on,
Yep.
like never leave print, and that's kind of why the basis for Tintin is created by a Belgian author called.
Herge.
Thank you.
There will be a lot of
Don't-
pronunciation where we get to a name and we all turn to look at you.
I was telling Amy, I like have typed a lot of these names, but like don't say them aloud a lot, so I will probably screw them up just as much. Yeah.
So essentially, when we talk about European comics, we often talk about the Franco-Belgian scene, and that's because sort of the inspiration flowing out, like Tintin eventually became the basis for his own magazine, where other supplemental stories that launched other artists
gonna
came
look
in,
up a thing.
and they got their own collections. Asterix came around with a new magazine in 1961.
Yep.
They started publishing collections, which were wildly successful, and so new magazines as grounds for essentially it makes it seem like America was weird for shifting to a Superman magazine that was all Superman.
Yeah.
Everybody else just stuck with basically like the all-star
famous
model of
funnies
like
and-
6
yeah.
different
Yeah, yeah,
stories
yeah.
by different people.
It was very like you picked up your magazine and it was full of like 10 different comics.
There's eventually a magazine, a French one, a very famous one that translates to be continued.
Yep. Yep.
It's awesome.
Let's see. I'm gonna do. Can you hand me Cordon Maltese? Because we're
Oh,
gonna talk
we're
about
going
him
there.
For a minute.
Yeah, so that
yeah.
was the answer to how many volumes of Black Sad are there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
going back to
in
that,
English.
we have all 3 volumes at our house.
Yep.
But I've never been able to read them because as soon as we get them back from someone we've loaned them to, Brittany loans them out to someone
Yeah.
else.
That sounds like Brit.
Yeah.
And she'll
I
be
would-
like, "Oh my God, you've got to read this book." And I'm like, "Wait, I haven't. It's been
He in the case of the missing Black Sad.
Yeah.
it's been like 3 years now." And it's like,
Can we get all 3 volumes back, please?
I mean, that's the great thing about Black Sad is like I don't know anybody who wouldn't like that. It's
No.
it's a very classic. It's a mystery. If you like mysteries, you're gonna love this.
And in this
It's great.
case, Dark Horse has made them available in these
Yes.
English editions. So a lot of today's conversation is also going to come down to this thing, which is incredibly famous, but for a while was literally impossible to get in English.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things about books like this is that like it's just a noir story, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's a detective noir story.
Yeah.
Sex,
But-
murder, and cute animals.
Yeah.
But why the animals? Like you read it, like
Why
if you
not?
read it from I know why
yeah,
not,
yeah,
and I'm not
but, like-
saying that they made a wrong
Oh, no,
choice.
no, yeah.
But in terms of like, what's the theme? What are they trying to get at?
Yeah.
How does doing this with animals help the story? Does it create a microcosm that allows us to look at our own humanity from a different like it's that kind of stuff that I'm like, I'm lost in this book now.
And this is a common thread you'll see with a lot of European comics and why so much of it is kind of like cyberpunk, sci-fi futures.
Oh, boy, we're
is
gonna-
is
Yeah,
to
Valerian,
look
yeah.
at our own current affairs that were happening at the time through that lens, which is really great.
I mean, I think that's one of the great things about just comics in general is that the medium
Yeah.
allows you to really explore all those themes from
100%.
completely different perspectives, blow them up, zoom in,
Yeah.
you know.
So great. I'm going to talk about if I had like an honorable mentions list because I brought 5 of my favorites, but I would 100% put Cordon Maltese on there.
This
I think
one I
it's
don't know.
IDW is putting them out. I want to say. I think
oh,
it's
yeah.
IDW.
It's someone-
Yeah, it is IDW.
Okay.
They're a little bit expensive, but I think they'll start coming down in price because they just started really putting these out.
Last
You
couple
might
years.
know Cordon Maltese is in Frank Miller's Dark Knight. It's the fictional country that's done as an homage.
Yeah.
That's done as an homage to this.
I actually wondered about that. I was like, Cordon Maltese.
Yep,
like-
Frank Miller, huge Cordon Maltese. It is done by Hugo Pratt, who's an Italian artist. So yay, we've got some non-French stuff in
Yeah,
there.
there's a huge Spanish scene, there's a huge Italian scene that
Yeah.
we need to dive into in a future
Yeah,
time.
if chat has any suggestions, please let me know. I
Oh,
would
they'll-
love to know more non-French comics because that's kind of my primary
Oh,
focus.
we've got a great chat. Though.
Yeah, but Cordon Maltese is a sea captain, and it's kind
Already on
of
board.
like his adventures. It's a little bit like Indiana Jones in that vein, except this came first. But Indiana Jones is very much like in a similar vein as Cordon Maltese.
Let's see if there's
Just
a
like
page we can show off.
Traveling the high seas. It's all black and white. It's very simple, but I mean, it's just like what adventures he gets up to. He's a seafaring captain who like travels around the world. It's great.
Do you know the approximate time it's set in? I mean, like, I'm
I
trying to...
believe it's World War II or World War I era. I want
So
to
somewhere
say.
between the 20s and the 40s.
Yeah, because it's very World War I inspired. I want to say. I think I have it. I have it in
Adventures
notes.
of this modern Ulysses are set during the first 30 years of the 20th century.
Okay,
Okay.
there you go.
So
I was
it's
going to say, because I was getting a little bit of a Porco Rosso vibe.
kind of like
Yeah.
a Terry and the Pirates sort of.
100%.
Oh wow, there's some line work. There's some.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cap
Oh, yeah.
in there.
Yeah, Hugo Pratt was
Green-
very influential on
Yeah.
Green,
like
Green
that.
Lion in chat says that it looks like Peter O'Toole on the cover, and you're not wrong.
You're not
Green Lion.
wrong.
A person after my own heart. He's my favorite actor. So
I can't pick a page.
it's the line work is just so detailed.
really good.
Yeah, a lot of stuff with a lot of action. It's a good action comic. Yeah,
Trying to pick a.
he's just pretty. But if you love Indiana Jones, 100% you would love Corto Maltese.
Here we
Pass
go.
it down
Some
so I
nice-
can show off to the.
Interesting
Yeah,
use of black on the
yeah.
page.
This is heavy ink work. Just.
And these
beautiful.
came out in the late 60s. He started publishing them. So, I mean, just gorgeous, gorgeous work. So, and these just recently, in like the last 10 years, finally got American translations, and they've been around for a long time. So, there's always new old stuff that's getting translated all the time, but like it's slowly becoming more popular, which is great.
It is. It's so interesting with some of these where you're sort of, you get into the Valerian stuff, and it's like as of 2007, they'd sold 2,500,000 volumes, and it's like, oh, cool. They're available every 5 years in English.
Yeah.
But like we're now entering this era where we're starting to have consistently available access to them, or like ways of ordering more directly, and it's very exciting time
Yeah.
because we can all learn our shit.
Unfortunately, a lot of these are only available hardcover or paperbacks, not digitally. But I think it's coming. Like you can get Valerian digitally, which is great. I
Yes.
think the
Yeah.
first volume is on Comixology for free.
It is
still.
on Comixology. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
It's for free.
Valerian for sure is. So it's slowly starting to get there, but there's a reason why it's like that. I'll say it when we get to one of my
Fluffy
stuff.
Butt wants to know if the captain sings sea shanties.
I believe so. It's been a while since I've done Corto Maltese.
I'm seeing a lot of like
I want to
roll around the world and find ancient temples. Kind
Yeah,
of. Whoa.
it's super like Temple of Doom vibes.
It's very Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
They're in India in this one.
I want to say yes. There's so many volumes of Corto Maltese. There's like 15 or something like that. It gets into the tens.
Boy, he is grinning, and an awful lot of people. Who
I
are
mean,
holding
he's
guns
very
On him.
dashing and suave.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot of people pulling guns on him, and him going.
yeah,
So
he's
it's
kind of like
page after page.
seafaring James Bond a little bit, maybe.
I get that vibe.
Yeah,
Sea
I can
Bond?
see that. I'd be totally fine with that.
It is funny because you can also see that, like, I would not be
I'm not
surprised
deep
at all
enough into
if,
this
like,
one to give like a
the
good.
European and
Just looking
Japanese
at the
authors draw
artwork
from
for
each other.
this.
Because, like, this guy looks like any number of manga heroes.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of family
Super
resemblance.
influential.
It's interesting also, and this is something I remember from back in my anime days, and I don't know if you can speak to this, is that anime had an earlier penetration in Europe than it did in the United States.
Yeah.
Really?
I remember that growing up, when I was a teenager, there weren't a lot of anime nerds back then. It was kind of a new thing. I remember that the people who knew what I was watching and were into the shows I was watching, they had watched them in French.
Yep.
They had watched them in Italian. They had seen them overseas. It was things like Saint Seiya and Dragon Ball had penetrated
Yeah.
the European market,
Well,
but
there's a lot of back and forth when we get to. We'll talk about Mobius and Miyazaki. We're
yeah.
swapping all of the time. Can you hear me? I gotta shout out Persepolis real quick because
yeah.
if I didn't, I would be upset. So the only thing, and if chat wants to give me suggestions, there is definitely, I would like to acknowledge a lack of female women writing comics in Europe that.
And doing some research, it looks like it is taking extra time for some of those to get
Yeah.
translated.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to, if you have anything that I can buy in French, I can still buy comics in French. So, like, let me know. I would love to read them. But it is definitely a little bit harder to find comics by women in Europe. I don't know why that is.
I wondered, upon reading more about the sort of magazine structure,
Yeah.
I wondered if that had something to do with it, because essentially, if you're all working in an office together and
Yeah.
hiring friends who hip you to other friends, it's very
it was
easy to get
very
into.
like, like heavy metal in France was founded by a group of men, and a lot of like Pilote, which we'll get into in a second, is all founded by men. So it was very like that was just the circle that they were in, by no fault of their own.
I saw there was one of the indies, one of the ones founded in 1972, I think, like one of the co-founders was apparently a woman well known for writing sort of feminist stuff, but I don't know
70s
her
and
work.
80s, I want to say the 80s, it started to become more kind of fluent. And like now there's a bunch of them. There's not enough, obviously, but like it's getting better. But I gotta shout out Persepolis is great. If you haven't seen the movie too, the movie is so good. And she is, I want to say, well, she is Iranian, but it was published by a French company, so this kind of still qualifies. But it is about her childhood growing up in Iran.
It was published between 2000 and 2003 by L'Association.
I will hold for you.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, very, very simple artwork, but like very about the taking the story is the primary focus here, not as much the art.
But the storytelling power of her art is
Yes,
incredible.
absolutely.
Every
and
line is
the film
deliberate.
is just as wonderful, I have to say. So read that and please see the movie. The movie is so wonderful.
There are two parts of this. I brought part one. You can get them as a
we're good.
combined edition,
Yep.
or you can get them separate. And it really it will teach you and move you and make you really sad
It's
and
got a classical,
really happy.
it's got a classical feel to the art, too.
100%
That's so cool.
cried
Yeah.
watching the Persepolis movie. Like,
I was not
several
aware
times.
there was a movie.
Oh,
Was
it's like it was like Academy Award nominated.
Yeah,
Oh, man,
I
I
remember
remember
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must.
It's
That was
by
a
Marjane
big
Satrapi.
deal when that came out. But yeah, it's so good.
Estokian is saying Maliki, I think, is female written. I'm trying to.
Oh, good. I will take that down. Yes, more
Yeah,
women
everything.
in European comics because we could never
Send us
have
the ones
enough.
that we need to make sure we're spotlighting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have my glasses. I think I'm getting my. I chose my glasses last week, but it's taken
an
them
ongoing thing.
taken them a couple weeks. But like I'm looking at the chat, going, "Oh my God, I'm so old. I can't read this."
Okay.
To be fair, we have it
Dig
set to
into
super
some
fuzz.
more.
That is. That's doing it. So it's
Yeah.
not my eyes.
No,
Okay.
it's just the-
Liz.
So this is also an example of the newer mode of publishing, because by the
Yeah.
80s and 90s, when the magazines, like many other magazines, started to go away. Thank you for this note, Chief, about how to get the Persepolis movie.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
It gets replaced by sort of publishing things in solid chunks, a
Yeah.
thing that is happening all over.
So-
Persepolis is an example
Yeah.
of that.
So we're
I
gonna.
read
this is
this
actually
week.
a really great segue into. So Lois Sloan was published in this magazine called Pilote, which is very influential. We'll get into that. So the reason why it is so ginormous is because it was taken from the magazine pages. So a lot of these bigger books, it's because the size of the paper they're publishing on in France is bigger than our usual like letter size sheets. And then when they're doing the translation for in American, they don't want to shrink that down and lose the quality of the artwork. So that's why you get.
And this artwork,
It's-
This
wow,
artwork
you are.
is
if you guys
incredible.
love H.P. Lovecraft, you would love
Oh my
Lois
God.
Sloan.
Yes.
So,
I was thinking that the whole time.
yeah. I
I
love
was
that
like,
page.
oh my God,
So,
this is like.
Mobius, or if you're French, it's Mobius, I believe. I will call it
always say
Mobius
I will
because
always say
I don't want to
Mobius.
sound pretentious. He is influenced by Philippe Juliet. He's a huge influence.
Oh, I love that
You
one.
can also say whatever you want.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
had to put that
I
out
know.
there.
So we got to show them what we're
Yeah,
talking about, because
it's-
this is.
Here,
When
I've
was
got
this
one.
published?
we got
So
the
this was
big.
published
We got the big.
in
Hold on.
1970 in like that.
Yeah, we got
if
it
you
right
guys
here.
love Cosmic Marvel, I would also
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
Absolutely.
is this is Cosmic Marvel meets
like
H.P.
times
Lovecraft.
1,000.
Yeah.
Look at the absolutely gorgeous color work he does.
I didn't know I wanted a tattoo, and then I got to that page.
Does he do his own color, or is there somebody that he coordinates with?
wrote and illustrated this.
Wow.
He's huge. He's a huge icon in France. Juillet influenced Mobius. He influenced so many different artists. Kind of underground still now considered. He's still alive. He's
Oh yeah,
What's that?
forgot about the ship.
What is that?
and so
Oh yeah.
it's called The Six Voyages of Lone Sloan. So Lone Sloan is kind of like an Odysseus type. He voyages through, or a little bit like Silver Surfery too,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah, I was getting like vibes of Adam Warlock.
Yeah. He's very like Silver Surfery. So
He's got red eyes.
this big catastrophic event in Lone Sloan called like the Great Fear, and it flings him kind of back in time. Or he flings him into a different dimension, and so he kind of aimlessly has to
Oh, the
roam
one with the
these
robot.
dimensions.
Oh, the robot.
like the first couple at least, I remember him flying around in like a stone chair, and that was giving me like
Yeah.
Orion and New
Yep.
Gods, and then oh my God, yeah, there was just like so many parallels to American comics that I was
the
like,
H.P. Lovecraft influence is 100% his favorite writer is Lovecraft. So all of this is intentional. It's not like,
One
this
more.
feels
I'm
like
so
it. Like
sorry.
he is trying
He's like,
to
no,
do.
those are old.
Every
Yeah.
page of this
so
book.
gorgeous.
but there are like there's a theme of like sort of like not necessarily. I mean, there is like a certain like existentiality to it,
Oh,
but like
100%. That's a big theme in French comics.
It's really playing around with like cosmic horror on a completely different level. And
the detail work in his artwork
incredible.
is just a recurring theme that we'll see more in these French artists. But like I could spend 10 minutes on a panel looking at the line detail in the backgrounds.
yeah, that's why I didn't finish the book.
Yeah. It's just gorgeous.
And he was doing this for a weekly or a monthly?
Pila, I believe, was weekly. If anybody Google for me, but he was one of the Juliet is one of the founders with Mobius. I wrote them down. It's Jean-Pierre Dionnet, Bernard Farkas. They formed Humanoids in France, and they are the ones that formed Metal Hurlant,
Which you've all heard of.
Yeah, it's heavy metal, the French version of heavy metal. Although in French it translates to it's screaming metal, because they're French and they have to be cooler than us.
They made statuary
Yeah.
that I now kind of am like, I'm gonna
Oh
see.
man, there's so many. Once we get to
like,
Valerian,
oh my God.
If there was Valerian anything, I will buy it.
When
Yeah.
did they found heavy metal?
Heavy metal was 74.
Okay.
So right in that psych art, like if you guys think Cosmic Marble was like flourishing at that time period,
Yeah.
like this was it in French comics. This was the art style.
It was interesting because I read about like the wave of sort of indie, again magazines, but
Yeah.
that came up in the early 70s after like, and I don't know if you can fill this story in, but because I need to read more about it. But going through like Wikipedia, I ran into a big cultural turning point in France was May 1968. It was.
And that's a big moment in film too. So May 1968 was the strike. It was like a union strike or labor strike. Like Cannes, a lot of filmmakers withdrew their films in Cannes that year as like a protest. But there was a lot of protest art coming from comics too.
And so like it was this like, and I hadn't even realized this, but like as amazing as all of the work that was being done with Lucky Luke and Tintin and Asterix and all of this, I hadn't realized that in 1949, a very American Comics Code-like organization that was concerned with the welfare of children had basically come into existence in France and had been sort of deciding what was appropriate to put in magazines. They had a semi-legal power, but it was one of those, like, if they objected to you, that was enough to sort of just make your life really inconvenient.
Yeah.
So they didn't always have to even drag you into court, and sometimes they lost when they did, but that sort of effect of, like, you better be careful about what you publish, like, this was an interesting thing, because in the introduction to the Valerian volume, they talk about the artist, from the artist's perspective, one of the creators of Valerian says France in the 60s was boring. And I assume it was not actually boring. But like culturally, they were feeling restrained.
Yeah, that's where you got like in film, like the French New Wave was born out of that. These guys came from like the underground. They were very much like when Pila launched, like that was the alternative magazine. That was not like, I'm gonna go read Tintin there. But funny enough, Asterix got started in Pilat. So you could have like these mainstream comics, but it was very much like a place where like these artists could play around with different styles and formats.
And so like it was playing host to a bunch of the most interesting people working and like doing a bunch of great work. And then I guess there was a day in May 1968 where they all descended on the offices and they yelled at the poor editor. Because Mobius talks about where he's like, we understand what a terrible position he was in, but it was sort of the burgeoning kind of creator rights movement, the burgeoning sort of like, we want to have more freedom and more control over our art. And so the connection between that sort of mini revolution of 68 and all of the like flowering of indies that would come after that, whether or not it was aimed at the most sensible target at the time, like it's apparently
100%.
So I just want to read this, because this, I think, kind of explains it very well.
Yeah.
Sloan, a solitary interstellar explorer imbued with mystical powers, wanders a universe alive with star dragons, planet-sized machines,
Yep.
insane robots,
True.
and beings of
Yep.
godlike powers,
Those are all there.
melancholies, and rages.
Feel it.
Yep.
Follows Sloane through 6 unpredictable Lovecraftian journeys, as imagined by one of the greatest science fiction creators of our time. My favorite part of this entire thing, the most like stereotypically French part of this,
Yeah.
godlike powers, melancholies, and rages.
Yeah.
The fact that they were like, yeah, there's beings of melancholy.
Yeah.
We've got,
But godlike.
You gotta have some
Godlike melancholy.
existentialism with your heroes.
yeah. No,
in
I
France.
was like, oh, this is so French. Like they highlighted
Yeah.
melancholies.
Yeah. I mean, they have a quote from Herge, who does Tintin, saying sensational. Like, the guy who made Tintin
Yeah.
loved this. That's how
Oh man,
influential it is.
I didn't get a chance to read it until today, and I opened up that first page. It was just like, oh,
Yeah,
I
man.
should. Oh.
If you love like Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four, Doctor
dear.
Strange, all of that cosmic
Yep.
Marvel stuff,
Yep.
you would 100% love Lone Stone. And they're actually like, they're short. This is about 60 pages. It was like $11 on Amazon.
And-
it's not that bad.
And a lot
to
of
get
those pages are one big splash page.
Yeah,
There's a lot
yeah.
of
You can probably read this pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, like an hour easily.
Well, you can read it, understanding it, unpacking
I mean,
it.
unfolding
Seeing everything
it.
in every
yeah,
panel.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And Cinebook puts these out. They do Valerian too, but they do amazing work on their translations, and they
Yeah.
really like. They're
was very
not
impressed.
shrinking the artwork. They do a really good job of trying to present it as close to, as it is in France.
Oh, and I noticed with the Cinebook versions of Valerian that they use a term that a lot of this episode is going to be me being jealous. And it's me being jealous that the French have this amazing term, the ninth art. They just went ahead and acknowledged that comics were an art form.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's like La
Man.
It
Neuvième.
is treated as like film, like design, painting, comics. Like it's not looked down upon in France. A lot of people read comics.
In the early 80s, one of their cultural ministers went sort of on a spree of started it's taken a while to come into fruition, but they've established several permanent museums about art
Yep.
stuff. They have one of the biggest and most wonderful festivals in the world. You saw on the back probably of Lone Sloane that it is an Angoulême Grand Prize winner.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to. It's this huge French comics expo, and everybody goes to
It's like
it.
200,000 people descend on a town for
Huge there, super huge. This is not a humble brag, but when I got to see the Valerian movie, which was not the best movie, but I got to talk to Luc Besson and his wife, and they were like, we go to this convention every year because it's the creators of Valerian go, all the a lot of people from Marvel have gone because they're such fanboys of these people. So it's a huge place to just network if you're a comics person.
Yeah. They were 7,000 or 8,000 pros and 200,000 attendees
Jeez.
in a village,
Yeah.
just loving comics
In a tiny
every
French
January.
village?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's tiny. In my head, it's a village.
In my head, it's not
It's like
tiny.
a city, but it's on the smaller side city, I think. Yeah.
And Belle's dancing around, and there's a bread maker there, and he's like, "Oh, come get your bread."
I assume that is exactly
Yeah.
what happens.
There's croissants, all of that good stuff. Yeah, so Lone Sloane is awesome. Let's do a contrast to all that brightness.
Oh,
So let's do.
yeah, I was excited to see this.
Tell me about this.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm just gonna wander around with years and stuff, and
Yeah.
that's totally fine. So I don't know how you pronounce the name of this book actually, and I've had it for so long, but Nicopol.
It looks like
trilogy?
Nicopol.
Okay,
Looks good to me.
It's Enki Bilal. So he is not French. He is born Yugoslavia, born and raised in Yugoslavia, and then he came to France when he was 10 or 12 or something like that. Which is wonderful though, because it's such a contrast to all that bright Lone Sloane stuff, and then you get to the 80s when stuff got a little bit darker in France. There was a lot of racial tensions. They still exists right now with immigrants in France. There is kind of that tension there that's always been there. But there was a lot of art being made about classism and capitalism taking over, and this is definitely this, but he kind of turns it a little bit. So Nicopol trilogy took him 12 years to do, which is really crazy. The first one came out in 80, the second one came out in 84, and then the next one came out in 92, which is nuts. But it's really cool. So it's about this guy. It's 2025. There we go,
right
back
there.
of the book. And this guy, he is in a capsule orbiting space, and he is finally woken up. The capsule is opened, and he's been in cryostasis for 30 years. And he opens it up to find out that the Egyptian gods have returned to Earth and are real and are like ruling over the human race.
What?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh,
and
that
that's
is
and that's
trippy.
like not even like the main plot. Like they're there and they can like inhabit people's bodies and take over the humans to do stuff. It's really cool, but it's also like a really great commentary on like the classism divide in France. A lot of commentary on like capitalism. This feels very Blade Runner-y before Blade Runner, which is kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a character. I'm trying to find
Beautiful stuff.
page that I can. This one's a
Wow.
little bit. Some of these are very adult. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a page that I can use. But this woman here is Jill. Look at the
Oh, that's beautiful.
her with her cigarette is a very classic image. It's really gorgeous. So in future world, people are very pale and like make their skin paler in fashion and like dye their hair blue because that's like the cool fashion, which I kind of enjoy and love.
I don't relate to that at all.
Yeah. My favorite weird fact about this book is so there is a sport that he made up, and Kibalal made up called chess boxing in the future. And
Please tell me it's chess, except that when you lose a piece, you get
no, so it's
like,
it's
punched
what
in the face.
it's what you think it is. It's a hybrid sport. They box each other and then they play chess.
It's okay.
To decide it out. It's mental and physical.
It's like a triathlon.
Yeah. So
Thank you for going
chess
there.
boxing is a real sport now, inspired by this.
No way.
Yeah. They made it a real sport in 2003. It is a real thing they hold competitions for.
That's amazing.
And add that to
some-
my Google search list.
Yeah. Go.
Chess boxing.
It's on Wiki. Go look up chess
I
boxing.
wonder if I can find chess boxing
I
on
feel,
YouTube.
and it's a one-person sport. I feel like I would need a tag team. Like I get the chess part. I need like a boxer.
But no,
Yeah.
but you gotta. I mean, like, but
Like,
it's,
you gotta be able to do both.
It would be interesting to see Bobby Fischer like, all right, let's fucking
I gotta
do
go in
this.
the
Takes a
ring,
couple
man. I
punches,
gotta
and then he
go in
goes
the
move.
ring. Yeah, it's great, but
Chess
it's
boxing.
really like vibrant artwork.
Woo.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's a lot of so the Egyptian gods, they float in a giant pyramid above the earth, as you do.
A lot of pyramids tonight.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of pyramids once we get to Mobius.
Thank you. Just should have worn that.
By the way, we will be doing
Oh.
our 5-minute
Thank you.
Yeah.
one-shot topic tonight. So start getting. I've already seen a few, so start getting those in.
Yeah.
And so
This will
the
be fun.
other main thread in this book is Nikopol has a son. So when he comes out of cryostasis, his son is looking for him, and his son and him are the same age now, which is real creepy. So they get mistaken identity, and there's a whole plot with that. But it's really cool. It's also very short read. It's 190, 180
Yeah,
pages.
that's
Here's one of
that's
the
an image.
yeah, one of the gods. There's rhinos and stuff. It's cool. It's like a kind of noirish, cyberpunky a politics story. I kind of love it.
I like the gecko cat.
Yeah,
Quite pleased with it.
Egyptian gods have a gecko cat that they can sick on people because they're gods.
Because they're gods.
Yeah, there's.
Why wouldn't you have a
I think
gecko
he's
cat?
Anubis's, as it is. But
sense, makes
Anubis
sense.
just kind of roams around future
So
Earth.
Anubis.
But it's
Sounds
it's
just like.
gross and creepy, and I love it.
So many of these images we cannot show you.
So
Should not show
this
you.
is a hard one. So apparently there's a movie version of this. If anybody has seen it in chat, let me know if it's good. It's called Immortal.
Chess MMA.
And there's
I know.
there's a point and click video game of this.
What?
That I
Whoa.
didn't know of that came out in like 2008. Somebody let me know if that's good. I had no idea.
That's
I don't know where I can find
amazing.
it, but like of all the things to adapt, I never would be like, this needs to be a video game. I feel like that's
Chat's
really
still stuck on pyramids and boxing at the moment.
Yeah,
yeah,
they're all
man.
catch
Chess
up.
boxing. It's really
boxing.
it's an actual real thing. Let me do before we get into Mobius and Valerian,
Yeah.
because we're going to spend a lot of time on this.
Yeah, that'll
I
be
want to
it.
shout out
Yes.
Aldebaran. I think that's how you say it. And this is
Aldebaran?
and this is still going on because I know we have a lot of older comics, so I wanted to do something you can get that's like still continuing.
Nice.
It's by Leo, and it is about these planets have colonized, or we've colonized planets due to global warming. There's a lot of French stuff that's like, oh, we've ruined the Earth due to global warming. We got to get out of here.
But it's almost beside the point for the book, for at least for the beginning of it.
I mean, that's the backstory even. Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't even know that unless you read the back of this, honestly.
It's mentioned once at the beginning of the story. It's like, no one talks to Earth anymore.
So it's about, there's different cycles. So this is the first one called Aldebaran. The second one is Betelgeuse. And then there's a third one.
Oh, so they're named after stars.
And so they go to these different planets. So they have colonized this other planet for reasons we don't know. We are unable to contact Earth. They are on their own, so they live very like a technologically, there's not much there lifestyle in these little villages. And then one day, this creature attacks the village and decimates the village, and everybody dies except our three main characters, and they encounter, he's kind of a scientist type.
Yeah, a mad scientist type character.
A very
but
mad scientist.
Charming mad scientist.
Very charming, but like a little bit like he's into weird sciencey stuff, I would say. But they kind of go with him to figure out what this creature is. So the creature kind of can shapeshift. It will.
It shows up as a sort of liquid for the first.
Yeah, it's a liquid at first,
chapters.
and so if you step into the liquid, you will dissolve and eventually die within minutes. Yeah, it's real creepy.
Yeah.
So acid.
Yeah,
acid
it's
creature.
It's sometimes it's weird.
Acid. It can
weird.
shapeshift. It's not like a.
That column at the beginning was
form.
really freaky.
Yeah,
the whole
let me see
column
if
bit.
I,
See if you can find that.
Miss Sunflower said France is woke.
Yeah, man. France
boy.
is super woke
Can you
in
hear
the
me,
80s.
Nicopol?
Yeah.
Artist Someday in chat asked what it was called again, and I believe it was
Nicopol trilogy.
Nicopol trilogy. Yeah, I think this is the comic you were talking
Yes.
about.
Yeah. I would
when
say
you asked that.
Aldebaran
And King of all
is.
this stuff.
It's after the goopy after
creator.
the water starts to turn solid.
Yeah, I wanted to see. I don't know if I can.
There
show,
it is. Well.
I don't know if I
It's
can
just so
show the goop. I guess.
Yeah,
is that safe?
that's safe. There's
We've
Yeah.
showed worse.
Yeah. It's not like we're showing. So the only thing about the English translations is there is sometimes nudity in the French ones, and it is there for a reason, actually. So this guy is one of the girl's dad, and he tries to go step into the creature, and as you can see, it does not go super well for him. He is pretty dead within seconds.
This artist looks very familiar, by the way. Is it my imagination that this is the same?
Leo has done a bunch of things. So this is the rare French comic that it was not started in a magazine. These are published as they are in the volumes, hence why it's smaller.
It's also got a slightly different vibe, I will say.
Yeah.
Like it's very provincial for an awful lot of it so far.
Yeah.
There's a real
It feels very
isolation.
Yeah. And I feel like that's it's making not an environmental statement, like hitting you over the head with it, but like it is kind of wrestling a lot with like, what are we doing to our planet? Like, what is our future? I mean, France loves being existential above all.
Well, one of
This is great. This guy's from Brazil.
Yes.
Now lives in France. But like.
So Leo was born in France. He lived in Chile. He's lived in Argentina, and then he didn't come to France until the 80s, I believe, and that's where he became really popular. But this is fairly recent. The first one wasn't published until, I want to say 2003.
Do you think that this is?
Yeah, like the cover art on it is very inspired by the stuff like Lone Sloan. I would
It looks
say.
like he may have begun work on it in '93.
Yeah, I believe. Yep, 93. And there's 3 cycles. So the third one is called Altali. And it's 2007 to 2016, and he actually started another one that's separate from these 3, but it takes place after, and it's called Survivors, is the American name, but that went from 2011 to 2017. So these are fairly recent for French comics, and I think Cinebook does them again, but they've like
The ninth art
I mean, that's a pretty recent translation to get those out. Usually you have to wait like decades for that stuff sometimes.
It's one of those things that made heavy metal sort of stand out was that it relatively quickly got picked up and started being shared in America because everyone was so hungry for something different in terms of comics, and like they diverged off eventually. But that's why like that was where a lot of American creators discovered a lot of this stuff that then would fall into detail.
And I'll say, thankfully, at least the new heavy metal magazines are now available through Comixology too. At the very least, since Grant Morrison took over editorial.
Yeah, he's done a great job of making that more accessible.
I've been very impressed.
But yeah, if you want like cool kind of future fantasy, sci-fi, pick up all who are on. And these are really cheap too, which is great. I think this cost me like $10 for one of the volumes. That's much better than a lot of stuff.
I found mine on Comixology.
Yeah,
so.
Comixology, that's the great thing about these ones because they're so small is you can read them on a tablet and everything and you're not losing quality or anything like a Lone Sloan is you have to really zoom in and get all of that stuff.
There was an environmental point that you hit in that too that I was really, which was when I was reading it, one of the first things that happens at the very beginning of the book is that there's all these signs that something terrible is coming. Like these things are happening that if they were actually in tune with their environment, they would be aware of and they would have gotten the fuck out of there.
There's a reason.
So there's a series of like.
There's a reason that the first cycle is called the catastrophe. It's because a huge, giant global event has ruined the Earth before it even starts. And there's another great. I don't have a copy of it, but there's another great French comic called Universal War I.
Oh, that got picked up by Marvel Soleil. I didn't read
Marvel has it. It's supposed to become a movie, which I'm super stoked about. Universal War I, and that deals with like, hey, we've had to get off the Earth, but also deals with classism, where they've built this black kind of wall. And divided the Earth and the people who can afford to colonize and go get off of the Earth, and it's the war between the two of them, and that's a really great comic. I think Titan Comics owns it now, but like Marvel originally put it out, but the edition Titan put out is like gorgeous. It's like a really nice hardcover. Totally check that out before it becomes a movie. But that makes me super excited that like that stuff
is such a pile of
starting
comics.
to get
It's actually a number of them that a few years back, Marvel picked up the rights, did a small run of republishing European comics, and I think all those rights landed at Titan because Skydoll was also part of that run.
Was a Marvel
I think
book.
One of
Joe
picks
Quesada is a big Universal War I fan, or somebody at Marvel. Marvel was like, we have to put out the translation of this, which like, good on you. That's very rare that Marvel will pick up a non-Marvel comic and do the translation. So it's a good one. I really like the art style on that, but that's a heavy one for me to truck out here.
Bring it, but speaking of socially conscious European comics, Snowpiercer, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God, that was
also a French comic.
Totally forgot about that.
French comic.
Like basically, it turns out that is a French comic is something you're going to say a lot.
Yeah.
When you watch like interesting science fiction films and other like media.
Things that are trippy and weird, but also have like a socialism message. Probably a Franco-Belgian comic. Very likely. Do we want to do? I'm gonna do. Mobius
look at that.
first.
We're gonna do Mobius first. Oh,
Universal War I is like the artwork is so gorgeous. And it's really cool. I think I put a description in my notes here because I love it so much. Oh, here we go. So it's.
I just love that you came with notes.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for bringing paper.
Oh yeah.
So
okay,
nice.
here. So humanity has colonized our entire solar system. In the middle of a civil war between the core planets and distant outlying planetary settlements, an immense black wall appears. Cutting our solar system in two. The black wall absorbs all light and matter, and it's up to a band of disgraced soldiers to investigate the phenomenon. So it's like kind of an adventure comic, kind of a space comic, also kind of a war comic, and a socialist comic. So I'm into all of those things. I'm super excited to see how they do a movie of this, because it's apparently like I'm an American writer, and good luck. I want it to be good. I think it's going to be great.
We are rooting for you.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to see a movie about that because it's just a big space adventure.
That's my term when I'm nervous. Is boy, we are rooting for you.
Do we want to talk about?
I can go. Is that my copy or your? That's my copy.
This is my copy.
You have the double?
We've got so many copies.
Three of us brought the Inco.
Oh, okay. I've got the Inco.
So I wanted
three people made sure that this was here for our discussion.
I 100% wanted to do Mobius. You cannot do French comics without Mobius. You would be doing a huge disservice. I would also recommend, I can't find a good copy of it, but if anybody knows if they're putting out The Long Tomorrow anywhere, that one's kind of fallen out of print.
I was going to say, not that I've seen it.
Dark Horse is now in the midst of, or in the early stages of publishing what I think is intended, probably sales and, the world, not like... if all goes well, knock on wood, Dark Horse is planning something that is supposed to be a reasonably comprehensive Mobius library.
Yeah.
So I hope that it will get around to everything that we want. They are fairly pricey volumes. For instance, this one is $49.99, but it is a huge, beautiful chunk of hardcover collecting a lot of this material by this absolute sort of uncontested master of comics.
So Mobius.
So Mobius.
Yes.
Mobius
Oh boy.
also came from Pilot, like Lone Sloan and Valerian, which we'll get to next. Helped found Metal Hurlant, which is heavy metal. Hugely influential. I have some quotes from people.
Yay!
Miyazaki said, "I directed Nausicaa under Mobius's influence."
Boy, does it show.
100%. Ridley Scott said, "Long Tomorrow," which is another book, huge key influence on Blade Runner. You wouldn't have Blade Runner without it.
Also very visible.
Yeah. Neil Gaiman said, "I read Metal Hurlant," which Mobius had a huge hand in, over and over, and envied the French because they had everything I dreamed of in comics. Beautifully drawn, visionary, and literate comics for adults. I wanted to make comics like that when I grew up.
So thanks for Sandman,
Yeah.
Mobius.
Yeah.
Mobius helped on Sandman, worked with Neil Gaiman on that. Fellini, very famous director, said, "I consider Mobius more important than Doré." Doré is a very important French painter, 18th century. Mobius is more important than him. George Lucas invited him to work with him on Willow in 1988. That's how important
Really?
it was. George Lucas is a huge Mobius fan. Huge. We'll get to that.
That entire generation of
Yeah.
American film creators are
Just
all.
saying
Yeah,
it makes me
Ridley
want to go watch
Scott.
Willow
Mobius
again.
also, you may have seen him from, he did huge key influence on The Fifth Element. If you love The Fifth Element, he did all the storyboard work with Luc Besson on that.
Very, and like you, boy, once you start to recognize Mobius art, you see it
You'll
everywhere.
see
It's
it
reflected.
everywhere. Brian Michael Bendis does the forward on this, and he
It's a good forward.
It's a really great forward, but it's just basically like, I'm angry at everybody because they're just taking from the Inca for comics, movies, TV. It takes so much from this.
I love this. It sounds so hostile, but you come to love it.
Yeah.
Listen to me right now. If you are a storyteller from any visual medium on the planet Earth, and if you are even thinking about nicking something out of this Incal graphic novel collection, stop it. Stop the madness. Even if you think you are creating an homage, stop it.
Yeah.
Be the first writer or artist on the planet Earth to have read this material and not ripped it off. There.
Impossible.
Got that out of
Not
my
doable.
system, kind of. And then I think he basically then says, look, we're all going to do it anyway.
Besides The Fifth Element, he also worked on Alien. He worked with H.R. Geiger on Alien. He also did a lot of the storyboard artwork for Tron.
I did not know
Yes.
that.
The
He
original
did a lot
Tron.
of concept
Makes
art to work with
total
Disney on
sense.
Tron. Yep. And he did The Abyss too. So like, all of those masters of the '80s we all loved Mobius. There's a reason why he endures.
And you find just chunks of his art. I mean, he was also famous for his Silver Surfer work, and he was
Yep,
so
He
famous
did
for
a
all the
two-part
Yeah,
Silver
he
Surfer
did,
story that is legendary.
Silver
called
Surfer Parable with Stan Lee. Stan Lee, huge Mobius fan. Absolutely huge Mobius fan. If you want to Google Silver Surfer Parable, the
Yep.
artwork on that
It's-
is absolutely
So
exceptional.
this is a great quote from Bendis. He says, "This is expensive stuff. I literally bought Mobius graphic novels in lieu of buying things that would somehow help me get ladies." This is him in college. "I didn't buy clothes so I could buy graphic novels by Mobius. I didn't even buy food. I didn't buy food, and some of the graphic novels weren't even in English, and I only speak English.
Yep.
Well, a little Hebrew, but that ain't gonna help me here."
Yeah.
It's deep.
Mobius has touched probably every kind of facet of comics. His influence is there.
It was the first comic artist I knew by name.
Yeah. 100%. It's super hard to.
Heavy Metal magazine didn't help
How
either.
would you describe the plot of the Inca?
Oh, I can do that.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
I'm gonna pick out
It's
a
a
couple
tougher one. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah.
Somehow.
Incal is very
Incal.
much in the vein of if you are a fan of 1960s psychedelica, anything from Jodorowsky himself as a filmmaker, or Kenneth Anger,
Yeah.
or any of the experimental filmmakers of the 1960s, you kind of know what you're in for. What you're in for.
Yeah.
It's a science fiction world, very of sort of a Dadaist science fiction world, very much in the same way something like Barbarella or
absolutely.
a Saga to go a little more modern. If somebody
You mentioned Barbarella.
Saga is
know. I gotta go.
100% inspired by Mobius for
Yeah.
sure with the art style.
And the idea of a very kind of grounded everyman. At this point, it's a very detective. Usually, the notion of these lead characters are very, very in these films are very considered to do like kind of filthy work.
Yeah.
So he's a hardline detective who does.
That's hopefully my copy.
yeah,
I'm really
that's
sorry.
okay.
No, don't worry about it.
But he goes through and sort of is given in very much a Fifth Element sort of style a key to some form of enlightenment that he is sort of is hoisted upon him.
The Incal.
The
yeah.
Incal, and
the light Incal. There's two Incals.
Yeah, there's the black
light
Incal.
and the darkness.
Yeah.
Luminous in this translation.
Because Jodorowsky is very, I would say, Buddhist in his practices. So there's kind of that through line of
he's got a story he likes to tell, and it
Yeah.
tends to be about separating and breaking down what's wrong with people, and then
Yeah.
trying to bring them up to enlightenment.
100%.
And this is very much that story again.
Show that off. That's
Oh yeah, the line, the detail in Mobius's work is so incredible.
Oh, bring it.
like that underwater city, like flying,
But-
like in pyramids.
Let
lot of
me,
pyramids.
I'll show off. Like the bigger panels are really
yeah.
gorgeous.
You can almost
too.
hear like the music with these images. Like that's
You know what I love is we all have different editions of the Incal
Oh, yeah.
too. Oh, I think we have the same one. You have the classic edition, and then the full page panels are really gorgeous too. If you want to take a
Wow.
look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, really pretty.
And
Just
it also
floating in space.
includes
really gorgeous.
sort of humor and like this was when I fell madly in love with the Animal Friend.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Depot, I think is his name. So in the same comic, you can have just these impeccably crafted vistas and then like adorable little bird face.
Yeah. Little bird creatures. Yeah, I mean it's so hard to describe the impact.
There's also just layers. If at the point that you're getting to like if you're a fan of occult study, this is also a book that
Jellyfish
has
planet,
lots and lots.
A lot of
to
detail.
delve
and
into.
then there's this guy on the left here who is wolf face. He's got the head of a dog or head of a wolf.
Yes.
wolf face,
Yeah,
taser
his friend.
face.
it's pretty cool.
Well, there's a whole again, it starts with this very kind of Fifth Element detective story.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I think if I recall that. Yeah, I reread the beginning again where he's being thrown off Suicide Bridge.
Yeah.
For people to try and get information out of him, and he's literally falling off this bridge, which is this.
And it's a tarot image, right? The fool or hangman. Or
The hangman.
Yeah, the
Tarot.
hangman.
Is it
yeah.
really?
But he's upside
Oh, yeah.
down because he doesn't know things. and-
Yeah.
Yep.
No, you are dead on, and this is a book that's deeply encoded in that direction.
A lot of interesting creatures. Definitely very fantasy-esque sci-fi here. Yeah, these are some pretty cool guys that we come up against, but it's very colorful.
Oh yeah, I love the
These guys, yeah.
Berg. What
His-
is it?
Berg, yeah.
His first gig to kind of let you know is this beautiful woman comes to him and pays him to get her to a certain destination by midnight.
Yep.
Yeah, he's like a third-rate private detective, and he'll take random cases.
And-
There's
Yeah,
some
he'll take whatever he
aristocratic,
can get.
beautiful woman who wants him to
She
take.
goes out and party and sex and drug parties herself, including with a werewolf.
It's that guy.
Yeah,
it's his buddy. That's why he's so
his
mad.
buddy.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't manage to get her out by midnight, and she reverts back to her normal old lady, like full on like Disney old lady.
I like
stance.
the look of the bad guys.
He does
in
not get
this
paid.
because they look so creepy evil up top here. And then that's them.
Those guys worship darkness. They
Yeah,
want the sun.
That egg there is the dark Incal, but they have these things called shadow eggs too that are kind of like pure darkness, which is very cool concept. Very French.
What's interesting is that like the wolf who was involved in that first gig gone wrong,
Yep.
like has a big grudge against John DeFool, and then like because it's this comic, later on they're going to have to make cosmic peace, or they can't open the doorway to get to the
Yep.
things of the
There's
next
a lot
stage.
of themes of cycles, things coming back around again, and like, hey, we need to work together in harmony and create that piece. That's definitely a big through line in Jodorowsky.
It's very much, it's very similar to the Holy Mountain if I were going to go into that direction.
Which is a film made by the guy who wrote this.
Yes, so Jodorowsky, you might know, did a lot of films like El Topo, Holy Mountain. He was big in the 80s. El Topo is the first midnight movie. A lot of people know it by that.
I'm more of a Holy Mountain kid, but
yeah. His stuff is very weird and out there, and but a lot of people might know Jodorowsky's Dune, which is a documentary. I would 100%, if you have any interest in French comics, watching that, because
there's art that you will.
Yeah, well, Jodorowsky's Dune
the art.
was such a connector, especially in European comics, because he brought together so many artists to work on this. He wanted to make the movie Dune in the 70s, early 80s? No, it's got to be 70s, because then Geiger went to do Alien. And so he brought all these artists together to work on it. So he did Mobius, H.R. Geiger, so many artists. And then the Dune movie didn't happen, but because he brought these artists together, a lot of them went on together to make other things. So like Alien came out of Jodorowsky's Dune. You wouldn't have H.R. Geiger's designs without Jodorowsky getting together with him and kind of discovering his talent. Really, that was like the first. It
was a big introduction. He kind of rounded up everybody in Europe that he knew, and then it kind of pushed all that art out into the United States.
He really helped popularize those artists.
Which is and Michelle actually earlier today talked me into finally watching this documentary, which I had been hearing was great. Because content warning for a lot of Jodorowsky's material.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
and
100%.
potentially for elements of his persona that there are some unanswered questions surrounding him and his work for me personally, but I'm really interested because he's clearly had, he's produced some amazing stuff, and he brought together a lot of amazing people, and he's connected people to art in this really interesting way.
It is deeply and powerfully not for everyone.
100%.
My God, is this not for everyone?
You will know within the first 20 minutes if a Jodorowsky movie is not for you.
See, that made me mad because I was like, I love this imagery, and then I hate this.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you may or may not know right away.
His movies are gorgeous visually.
I'll even go so far as saying even calling them movies is in some people's theory.
It's almost like an art piece sometimes.
If you are aware of Kenneth Anger films and you're aware of what you're in for, there's not a 3-act structure. There is nothing resembling.
There's no narrative plot. What is that in a Jodorowsky movie? It's like let the feeling wash over.
And it's heavy and violent
very
and
heavy.
Crazy, and there's a lot.
There's a lot of weird going on, but European comics.
European comics.
Yeah, man. Jodorowsky is a super weird dude. But absolutely, I would recommend that doc to anybody who has even a faint interest, because it's really cool to see how all these different artists connected from this failed movie that we're never going to see. The only thing that exists are these gorgeous storyboard
The character art of Dali as the Emperor is one of my favorite.
You wish so hard that this movie was real and happened, but you also kind of don't, because so much awesome work came out of its failure. It's a double-edged sword.
What was the documentary that you were talking about earlier?
It's called Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yeah.
It's about the movie that didn't get made.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the
I missed the
original,
title.
I'm going to make this Dune movie, but pre-David Lynch 80s Dune, I don't acknowledge exists. But
Sting and leather.
Yeah,
Sting
yeah.
and leather.
I am. Side
Have an
note,
action
for
figure.
anyone who might not be familiar with Michelle, if
Oh,
you
yeah.
love
Venture
classic
Brothers.
film and you're interested in any of this,
Oh, yeah, I love
you
movies.
must be following Michelle.
yeah. If you want to talk to me on Twitter, I'll talk to you about movies all day.
We're going to talk.
Yeah.
I go deep.
Speaking of Mobius, I would love to recommend a documentary on YouTube that BBC4 did. It's called In Search of Mobius. You can go watch it on YouTube, and it's they did their own hour-long documentary on him, and it's really well done, and it's totally free to watch on YouTube.
They did a similar thing with In Search of Ditko.
Yeah.
Was it the same people?
I think it's the same. It's BBC4 did it, I want to say
can't
around
remember the name of the-
2007, 2008.
Yeah,
it's
this is
before
a
he
re-
died, because he's in the documentary.
It's around when they
talking
did
about
the In Search of Steve Ditko
Yeah.
one.
So it's great. If you don't know anything about Mobius at all, it's like a 1-hour master class on him. And does a really good background and all that fun stuff.
He is an artist that has fundamentally altered culture, Western culture on every
I'm
level.
trying to figure out comparisons, and it's
don't know,
whoever
man.
the person who invented the electric guitar, if they were also the Beatles,
When Mobius died, so Mobius's real name is Jean Giraud, or Giroud. When he
Giraud.
Yeah, Giroud. When he died, the French minister gave a eulogy at his funeral, and he said France has lost two great artists today, Jean Giroud and Mobius, because he was. Yeah, I know it's really hard for him, but he was that important. It was almost like there's stuff he did under his real name, and there's stuff he did under the Mobius name, and it's both different. And it's really cool that you have an artist like that. It's like he branched out so much. Yeah, his stuff is just gorgeous. I picked
Here's
the
a contrasting one from World of Adina here.
There's a great Art of Mobius book. I don't know if it's still in print.
Another one. It used to be at Meltdown back when there was a Meltdown.
It is a bit pricey, but it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, sometimes when I just need to like zone out and kind of be like, I need inspiration from somewhere, I'll just thumb through that book, because how can you not be?
I've ripped off the Intel and things like that.
Yeah, how can you not be inspired by Mobius? He's just incredible. But yeah, there's another series he did called Blueberry that's also really good. That is, you can find editions of that translated. That's, I think Humanoids did that one.
That sounds accurate. I'm not totally sure.
I think that's Humanoids.
I'm going to say yes on that
Diamond
one.
for that,
I
not
think
the publisher.
so. But that's also a great one. That's early Mobius too, so it's kind of cool to compare.
Western.
Yeah, it's a great Western. If you love, and the great thing about him was he was so influenced by American culture, and American culture was so influenced by him. So it was really kind of a good symbiotic relationship.
The best conversation. Oh, look at that.
Like, come on.
Oh, look at that.
Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at all the detail on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's happening.
Adina is so good.
Oh. Look at that
If you
face.
read Adina and then go see Nausicaa, like that's
Oh,
such
yeah.
a good.
And, like,
you'll
you-
have a good Sunday.
Even going through the Nausicaa manga, you're like, of course,
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's so like you can feel Mobius on every page.
He's super big manga influence. Akira, the Akira manga too, I would say, has a
Very much so.
definite Mobius influence for sure.
It's
Yeah, he really just was like such a cultural icon. I don't know another comics artist on that level besides like Kirby. Really,
Yes.
that is just that like ingrained in not only comics culture but like huge film influence. Huge film influence. But he's so great. Yeah, I'm hoping The Long Tomorrow gets a translation somewhere, because that is like a cornerstone of like cyberpunk. Like William Gibson, who did Neuromancer and everything, huge influence.
I'm not
huge,
saying
huge
tweet at
influence.
Dark Horse and find out whether that's
Yeah,
on the slate,
please,
but, you know, let us
just
know.
be like, hey, guys, Michelle
Guys.
really wants The Long Tomorrow. But so influential, especially on Ridley Scott. I would say 100%.
there's a comment that came up in chat, and I would love to address this really quickly,
Yeah.
which is about translation and adaptation.
Yes.
Which is a topic I know a lot about, and because this is one of the things I used to do, was I actually worked I've done a manga adaptation
Yeah.
and anime, obviously.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about the translations for most of what we've talked about today? Like, do they feel?
I think they do them with such care. I really trust. Like, Humanoids is such a great company. Cinebook do really great translations with their work. I think they take a lot of care in doing that stuff. The reason why, like, Valerian and Laureline has been around, we'll get to it, since the 1960s.
I think we're saving it. I think that's what I'm sensing
The
here.
American translations didn't start till 2010, because they, like, wanted to get it right. And I think you'll find that with a lot of these French comics, like, the companies behind them, like, really put a lot of care into doing those translations.
So the weird side of me complaining about how we could never get anything is that there are no like shoddy versions of them out there.
Yeah, no, I'm not like, oh, don't read that version of Blueberry. Like, no, it's great. Like IDW and Dark Horse and Humanoids and Cinebook, like they all do a really great job. And I think it's because they know like these are such important comics in French culture that like, hey, we need to treat this with care.
And for people who are wondering, if you lose something in translation, yes, of course you do.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing that when a book like this gets translated, one of the things that they do is it's basically, it's not a matrix. There's not like, if we don't have a piece of software. Yeah. Translation is an art, is an art form, and you hire an artist to translate your book. You don't really, it's not about being able to just know which word means what and run it through a processor or anything like that. This is understanding subtext, understanding class, understanding ironies, understanding sarcasm. These things come into play very differently in different languages. And while almost worse than losing something in translation is that you sometimes gain something in translation. But a lot of these books have done thankfully a lot of these languages are in similar families, and you lose a lot less in that direction, and you still get an enormous amount of what was intended to be there.
What I'm really impressed about, especially the Incal and Nico Paul trilogy, a lot of the humor is still there. Like, and that's really hard to translate. I think that's such a tough job, is to like, hey, these jokes need to land in a different language, and I still find them funny. A lot of the slang is really hard in French. There's like French words where I'm just like, there's not an American equivalent with a lot of the slang they have. And I have never felt when I'm reading like Valerian where I'm like, oh, like this
That's
doesn't
an interesting
flow.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't like it always feels like it flows from panel to panel. I'm never like, oh, the story just took a turn or something. They do a really good job of with that. So I mean,
it is interesting because you get into things where like translation problems will get into like even something as apparently simple as Asterix.
Yeah.
Everything is a pun. Everything is a
And
joke.
puns are the hardest thing to
super hard,
translate.
Those are
especially
those
in
are-
French, because there's just things where it's like la mer and la mer, the mother and the sea. People play on words like that all the time, and there's just so many homonyms in French that you can play with, and obviously that doesn't translate
At all.
So sometimes I'll do like my memories of Asterix are with these English names, which are not technically faithful because it's not called like the character's name is different. But if the potion maker in your village is named Getafix, like Amy gets it.
That is somebody correctly adapting. It's not a literal translation. It's an adaptation.
Yeah. Translation is all about adapting for the culture and still, like, you're retaining the spirit of the previous, but, like, hey, you're making it accessible to somebody else, and I think they do a really good job of that.
Yeah, like reading Valerian, I never once was tripped up.
Yeah,
I was like, they wrote this in English. Wait, it's
the
in
plot
French.
of
What?
Valerian is, like, a little bit crazy, and I'm never like, oh, no, I don't understand what's going on. Like, it's pretty honed in, and they make it really easy to access.
Is it? Can we tell them what Valerian is?
Yeah,
time? Yeah, is it
okay.
time?
Yeah, because we've got like a half hour left.
It's 1967.
So
We've got about 20 minutes left because we need to do some housekeeping, and we've got our 5-minute topic.
I have one thing to show off really quick.
Valerian is my favorite comic of all time.
That's why I was like, we have to. We can't.
Yeah, I
skip
love
this.
Valerian so much.
I've never read Valerian.
It's so good.
Because friggin' 2010, it's like this most famous. In 2007, they sold 2 million and a half. Like,
Valerian started in Pilot in 1967. It just ended this year in March. So there's 22 volumes of Valerian. I only have the first 15. If somebody in chat can tell me, so apparently they like tried to bring it back with different artists this year, and I can't find a lot of information about it. So if anybody in chat can tell me about that, I'm super interested in trying to buy those. But it's Jean-Pierre Mézeray and Pierre Christian, I think, are their names. Mézeray is very famous French artist, but this stuff is just gorgeous. I will say you would not have Star Wars if you didn't have Valerian.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
I marked some pages because it is
I love you.
uncanny. Valerian has great creatures too, I want to highlight. So these are up top here, the Shingus. The Shingus are kind of like you have information you want to trade and deal, you come to them.
That's so Star Wars.
They'll.
Are these? Is this the one that some people were pointing out, saying like Watto from the Phantom?
Yeah,
Menace
it's
is
a
based
little
on?
bit. So Ambassador of Shadows is actually the 6th volume, but it's the one that the movie Valerian is based on because it's probably the most accessible. I would say.
and when we're saying volume here, remember we're talking about roughly 50 pages.
Yeah,
we're not
so
talking
these-
about like
yeah.
the first 6 issues of a monthly book from
No,
America.
and all of the. I mean, it was a series in France, so you can dive in from anywhere. Honestly, it's not like you got to start at the beginning. You can get the backstory. Actually, it's kind of interesting. So the first volume, they are re-putting out the volumes because of the movie. So the new complete volume 1, it's called, has this thing called Volume 0, which was not translated into English until last year.
I noticed it wasn't on the back.
Yeah,
of
like
the...
I've never read Volume 0, so I have to go buy it just because that's like where the story starts. So the backstory of Valerian and Lorwyn. Valerian is from the future. They work at the temporal space.
2700s or
28, the
2800s,
28th century. Yeah. So he's the temporal spatial time agency. He's a time agent. He's like time space cop. He can travel in time to anywhere. They work for this thing called Galaxity, which is kind of like the main planetary force in the galaxy. And the backstory goes, he's on his first mission. He's in the 11th century France, and he actually has to get rescued by Laureline. Laureline is from 11th century France. He pulls her out of there to be his partner, or her at Galaxity in the Spatial Temporal Time Agency. And what I love...
After she's turned into a unicorn.
Yeah.
Of course, what I love about Valerian is it kind of flips the gender roles. So, like, Valerian is very... I wouldn't say dumb. He's like the Lothario a little bit.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like very trying to be macho, but isn't and failing. And Laureline, I love Laureline. Laureline is like
She's
very strong and independent. In France at the time, a lot of the comics had kind of like the dumb blonde type. And so Christian Mézeray very intentionally gave her red hair as a statement of like, she is not this character. Like, we are not making her one-dimensional. She is fully fleshed out, which I really love. But there's so many just gorgeous, gorgeous things in these comics. Let me do my first two. So the second one, which is Empire of a Thousand Planets, has a lot of Star Wars influence. So if you want to take a look at the...
This would have been like 1970, right?
Yeah, so this is the
wow.
XB892. Looks a whole awful lot like a Falcon, just saying. Which, it's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all, but very gorgeous, bright colors.
I always like to think of it as like
my
as learning the genetic ancestry
Yeah.
of fandom.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is not this. It's less about being like ripped off. It is more. It's
No.
like what are the things? What are the things that these directors read at night when they were
loved
kids?
it. They said, "Oh my God, it's an honor
Yeah.
to have the concept art and everything look like this."
I should have loaded up that picture.
I just love this panel on the bottom because it's so
there-
characteristic of Valerian and Laureline. It's very bright, colorful planets. And the thing I love about Valerian and Laureline, which is this through line throughout all of it, is it's a very optimistic, very liberal humanism. It's not, looking down upon anybody. It's very much like help your fellow man. There's so many themes in Valerian. There's a planet where they go to a planet where it's all run by men and one run by women. Of course, the planet run by men is in shambles, and the one run by women is like totally running fine. Hey, we're good here. It's such a concept, playing on gender roles and all that stuff. And they each get caught on their respective planets, and they have to like rescue each other. It's really great. A lot of stuff on like classism and struggle in that time period in France, where there was an influx of immigrants. And so, what's the best way to show that? Let's go to another planet and have that stand in as a commentary on that. They did a lot of commentary. Christian and Mézeray were like very left-leaning liberal socialists, and it shows. It totally shows in this comic. It's great. I love them so much. Let me see. There's another panel that is like super.
I also really enjoyed like the sense of humor really comes through.
Oh
like,
my
the
God,
sci-fi
it's
is
so
very
funny.
sound, but they're like, you're a time agent and you're late everywhere. What?
Oh yeah,
How is that
yeah.
even
Yeah,
possible?
I love Laureline because she gives Valerian hell. So this should look super familiar at the end of Empire Strikes Back.
Wait.
Oh, somebody
no.
frozen in some carbonite? Weird, huh? Like a direct image. But you know what?
They don't call it carbonite. It's just like
he is-
plastic or
yeah,
something, right?
He's like frozen, but like, I mean,
But still,
Imagery
like,
is-
the imagery is stark.
it's very striking. But it's such a compliment to be like, Star Wars looked to this because it was so.
Also, right before that,
influential.
before he got encased in the plastic, I
Yeah.
think he talked to, is it Laureline, right?
Yeah.
She said, "I love you."
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
he said,
that's-
"I know."
Yeah. I wonder if you
Wait,
can.
really?
I'm
If
just
you
kidding.
Google,
No.
if you Google online, there is a panel of the comic, and they put this in '83. Pierre Mézeray drew. It's Valerian and Laureline, and it's Luke and Leia, and they're at a table sitting together. And the translation is like, Luke and Leia are like, "Oh, we just got here? What did we miss or whatever?" And Valerian and Laureline are like, "Oh, well, we've been here a while." And it was them like very slyly being like, "We know you're copy in a little bit, and like that's fine by us. Like we've been here.
I wish I
I'm
had
glad
loaded
you
it.
noticed.
It's in the new
Yeah.
volume 1, and
Yeah.
they say fancy meeting you here. And,
Yeah.
and it's clearly the cantina around them, or like or a cantina, and they're just like, oh, we've been here for years.
And Doug Chang, who is a very influential person at Lucasfilm, he works on the effects there and stuff, has said he had Valerian volumes while making Phantom Menace. So like they acknowledge, they know that it's a super big influence, but Valerian and Laureline are just so.
And the
With
visual
smart-
vocabulary for
Yeah.
science fiction had to come from somewhere before
Yeah,
film technology was
absolutely.
available, before all of this, and it happened to have like a lot of it happened in the pages of French comics.
Yeah.
Like,
And they were so great at like, hey, we're slyly giving you politics, but not at the expense of like this great fantasy and sci-fi story.
God, those costumes on the front cover.
Yeah,
are
yeah,
just
I
so
mean,
yeah.
spectacular. Is that
there's-
signed, by the way?
Yeah, I
Okay,
I had,
just checking.
Yeah, I had Luc Besson
Ah, damn it.
sign it because I had a very long conversation with him because the thing with liking like Euro comics is when you find another person that likes this stuff, you like geek out hard because you're like, you know what it took to get these. Or like, hey, when the American translation came out, I was super stoked because I didn't have to like buy things in French for a ton of money. So that's always great. But yeah, I mean, just
I can relate to that.
this-
Oh God, that's so
the
pretty.
space artwork. And Valerian and Laureline are really great if you have younger, like teenagers. It's not like risque, really. It's great, like
unlike many of the things we've been showing.
Unlike
Yeah.
almost everything we've talked about
Celebrity
today.
yeah, blasting through space, just gorgeous, gorgeous color is kind of my favorite thing about French comics is they're not afraid to splash color.
It is interesting that like we compared them to the Japanese model earlier, but they were basically color from the start.
Yeah.
Whereas Japan was like, you know what's real cheap? Lots of black and white.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about Valerian from the two that I read was that there's the time travel stuff, and
Yep.
like they can space and time. It's like, oh, I'm on the other side of the
Yeah, yeah,
galaxy.
yeah.
Now I'm on Earth. That's cool. But there's also magic, where it's like
Yeah.
in that very first volume, they go back to the 11th century
Yep.
and like essentially fight like a sorcerer, and Laureline gets turned into a unicorn,
Yep.
and she's like, I'm telepathic. You got to take me to
Yep,
the 28th
there's a lot
century
of
now.
I know your
creatures with
secrets.
powers.
Yeah.
And what I love about Valerian and Laureline is like it goes everywhere. One of my favorite comics is they go to 18th century like Victorian-y France, and they have to like dress in the.
I haven't read that one.
It's great. They have to like go, when the metro is being built. They do one where they go to like the 80s, which is really great.
That's the water one, right?
No, I think there's another one. It's like one of the 10th, 11th volumes, one of the mid-ish volumes. City of Shifting Waters, they go to
That's Manhattan.
New
That's
York
New York.
esque. Yeah. There's a
There's a cataclysm in the mid 80s.
Yep. There's a great.
I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't say
There's a
anything beyond
great
that.
artwork
but-
of the Statue of Liberty has been kind of destroyed. Very Planet of the Apes-y last shot, which is great.
The next page, I think.
And it's engulfed by water, and they have to travel through the city, and it's kind of been taken over by like the stragglers and the pirates of the sea, kind of.
Catastrophic sea level rises. What?
Yeah, recurring theme in French comics is like take care of the earth, guys. A lot of nature over like technological advancements.
Weirdly, a
Or-
lot
or
of ocean stuff too.
Yeah, a lot of ocean
A lot of
stuff.
ocean turns on them a lot.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Maybe they're just like we're in the middle of the country or something. And we don't. I don't know. But it's a lot of like appreciating natural beauty over like technological at the expense of technological advances, which
So
I appreciate.
in the chat, I've seen a few people saying that they want to start with Valerian, or Valerian sounds
Yeah.
like it's really accessible.
It's great. Yeah.
Where would like just start at the beginning with the very
Yeah,
what was
if you
the name
want,
of the first volume?
if you want their backstory, they just came out with Cinebook. It's called like the complete Volume 1, as opposed to mine, which is
A thicker,
which is
hardbound
just
one.
Volume 1. It's got Volume 1 of that is 0, 1, and 2. So you can start with those, and I would get that just because you'll have the Volume 0, which is the only place you can buy that. But honestly, you could jump in anywhere, which is kind of the great thing about Valerian and Laureline, is it's really like start wherever you want. It's cool if you know their backstory, but it's not like the most essential thing to them. It's really about like these two people traveling through space and time.
And you really are gonna like it's you're gonna love it for Star Trek reasons. You're gonna love it for Doctor Who reasons. You're gonna love it for Star Wars reasons. You're just gonna.
It's like a science fiction fantasy, but it's like very hopeful and like humanist, and that's what I.
It really is kind
enjoy.
of like if Star Wars met Doctor Who. Like I think
Yeah.
it's like Star Wars going back in time. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's the look of Star Wars with like the hopefulness of Doctor Who, which is something I really love in comics, and something I just enjoy in general with French comics is like it's so not superhero centric. They really like branch out, particularly with sci-fi and fantasy. So if you're like a person, I love Marvel and I love Captain America and stuff, but I really love like Euro comics in particular are very great at highlighting like.
we
Hey,
can blame
not-
the comics code for that.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we want somebody who's kind of flawed and doesn't have every superpower. And what I love about Valerian and Laurelene is like they're just smart. Like they use their smarts to get out of situations. Like it's about intelligence over everything else. I can get behind that, you know.
I'm going to throw this out because I just started this one. But speaking of other genres and taking advantage, this is frequently recommended to me as one of the best of the last couple decades coming out of French publishing. It is like basically fantasy comedies so far. It's really, really delightful. There's this guy who is proudly showing off all the features of his dungeon, which is full of the appropriate monsters and traps. And basically, it's our exact poison. And for some reason, I haven't sat down with it till now, and I feel like an idiot because I already love it, and I'm a couple pages in.
Literally
I keep hearing
giggling
of it.
before the show started.
I keep hearing of it, and I still haven't read it yet, so I really
What's
need
it
to
called?
Just, like,
Dungeon?
add it.
Just Dungeon?
It's called Dungeon. And this guy's going to go on basically a quest. There's a little map of like the different stories that they've done. Zenith relates to the height of the dungeon, but there's like the backstory and the things that happen later and a side adventure and all this stuff.
Nice.
But like it's, I will show off the collection of monsters,
Yeah.
which is him and just bragging. I've got orcs and demons and brutes. And,
Here.
Yeah, one of the things I love
here,
about
you can read
Euro
it.
comics is they get so creative with their creatures. And not that we don't, but it's just like so fantastical. They really up the fantasy.
And I love he's smoking a pipe at the bottom.
Yeah, because he's fancy.
I was just like, yeah, he's fancy. He's very
He's the
proud. and smoking
proprietor
his
of this
pipe.
dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he will not sell it to those newcomers, so he throws them out of window. And that's the start of the trouble.
Oh, man. I should say, if anybody in chat has suggestions, I love hearing more Euro comics. Please, like, tweet me. I'm at Michelle Deirdre, Deidre.
I was sad that I didn't bring Barbarella, which was another one.
Yeah, we should 100%
Yeah.
mention Barbarella. I
which
just
is
don't
a big
own
one
any
for me.
volumes.
I
but
have them all digitally.
so influential, not only in comics, but I would say like that whole kind of B-movie film movement.
Oh, yeah.
Super influential.
I still need to like read Barbarella.
Yeah,
or
I've
watch it,
only
or
like
engage with it at all.
dipped my toe into Barbarella because there's so much there.
It was a big influence for me growing up. Definitely, Barbarella was a very big. But it was some of the first comic books that I was given to read, which speaks to poor parenting
okay.
decisions.
Mine was Asterix
Definitely.
and yours was Barbarella, and I feel that explains a lot
It
about
explains
both.
a lot of other books.
I think mine was like Tintin. So,
Yeah.
And-
We have mentioned before, I like to be thinking
Yeah.
about these things.
Yeah.
Tintins are stone cold classics, but they were
Yeah.
also made in a different time.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
want to read them like with that awareness if you're handing them to
Contextualize
kids.
that.
There's like depictions of people from around the world and political issues from the 1930s. There's stuff that comes up, but they
Yeah.
are like, they're classics for a reason.
Yeah.
So
And then
100%.
this is the new Barbarella run, which
There
you
we
said
are.
you've been enjoying.
Yeah.
I have been really enjoying the new Barbarella run. It is quite
to pick
fun.
it up.
I love the art. I love the
Mike
story.
Carey.
It's
Lucifer.
It's vicious.
I have to pick it up.
Yeah, I'm really. I dipped my toe in hesitantly, and I'm now on issue 3 of like 4 or 5 that are out now, and I'm like, this is. It's not a book. It's not my popcorn book, but it's a book. I'm like, I'm going to delve into this, and this is going to be an intense 30
Yeah.
pages of oh no. In that direction, actually, I also wanted to mention. I brought the wrong book because I wasn't thinking clearly, but I wanted to mention Skydoll.
Yep.
Which, speaking of things that are not for everybody,
Yeah.
if you're
Chief
yeah.
notes that he cannot share old Barbarella.
No.
because- Don't-
Well, now I'm gonna buy Barbarella.
This was a book I was originally handed in French and specifically given to me by my my CalArt friends.
Okay.
This was
That sounds about right.
no, it's definitely got some complications, but it is visually, it is a stunning. There's so much to be taken from just truly stunning design and stunning futurism in it. It's definitely you're gonna get your mileage in different directions for. And I'm also not a fan of the translation, but that is a whole nother kid and caboodle.
I know. My lovely wife, Brittany, read that and loves Skydoll.
It is not for everybody, and it's extremely adult. I do warn that as well.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, there's a lot of French comics where I was like, I would love to talk about them, but we could also not show any of the art.
There's literally, and this is actually a collection of different artists working within the universe, trying to tell stories of it's stories of religious dominance, sexual exploitation. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a heavier one, yeah.
It's heavy, but the art there's nothing quite like it.
Yeah.
And it is. I definitely watched like a whole chunk of my art degree friends go fucking nuts for like a solid year.
I feel like I would be remiss. I know we said it a bunch of times, but the French heavy metal, such an influence. I mean when I went to France 2 years ago, they were doing an art gallery exhibition of panels from old heavy metals. It is so highly regarded in there that it's in galleries.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, but it's kind of hard to find. A lot of that stuff came over in the American heavy metal, and so it's been out there for a while. But just that art style, so heavily influential around the world.
God, would you recommend the new heavy metal, by the way?
Yeah,
I
love what Grant Morrison has done with heavy metal since he took over.
It's on Comixology too,
Yeah.
so you can actually
There you go, super affordable.
It's super cheap, and you just get this pile of things you've never heard of before.
Yeah, it's like diving into a treasure chest. You just don't know what you're going to find.
Yeah, the fun thing about buying old heavy metal at the store or having it come in is that you pick it up and you're like, flip, flip, flip. Oh, Mobius.
Yep. 100%. And almost all of the artists that we have talked about have probably shown in heavy metal at some point.
So some of the material we've looked at was probably originally serialized in heavy metal, a couple pages at a time.
I know.
Mind-blowing pleasure.
Lone Sloan originally appeared in the American heavy metal. They translated it in the 80s, I think.
Cool.
Of course they did.
It was the National Lampoon guys that were this French thing. We need to do that. That was the publisher that was we just got to figure it out. We'll put it out somehow. I remember seeing we bought #1 of the American edition at some point, and there's an essay in the front sort of being look, this is a thing people should be paying attention to.
Yeah. Yeah, heavy metal was such a space for people to just go weird, and I really appreciate that about it. It's just you didn't know what you were going to get when you opened up that heavy metal.
Know what you were gonna get when you opened up heavy metal.
It could get super weird in heavy metal, yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time for our topic.
Do we have a topic?
We do have a topic.
Oh my.
Do you want to do the introductions? Do you want me to do the introductions?
Sure.
I don't mind. I'm asking which you would prefer.
I will start right now.
Okay.
Welcome to the Wednesday Club. This is our 5-minute topic for this week, chosen by you, the chat. We do this every Wednesday on Twitch and Project Alpha on Geek and Sundry. My name is Amy Dallen.
I'm Michelle Buchman.
Our special guest today.
Oh, Taliesin Jaffe. Sorry.
Matt Key.
And we have a question.
The question comes from our Alpha channel.
Yay.
It is from Nuke 418, and it is
The best nuke.
create a hybrid sport like chess boxing.
Ooh.
How does it work?
Ooh.
Bonus, what comic book character would be the world champion of that sport?
This is an amazing
5 minutes on the
question.
clock.
This is so tough.
So does it have to be like a triathlon thing where you have to do one then the other, or can I combine
I
multiple
think you can
sports?
combine. I think
Yeah,
it's
hybrid.
like basketball.
So this is based on chess boxing, which we just talked about. This is our European
mine.
comics episode. It comes out of the Nicopol trilogy by Enki Bilal that Michelle was sharing with us earlier. And chess boxing has become a real sport, so choose your words carefully. You never know.
I've got mine.
Go for it.
I'm ready.
Okay.
It's competition ballroom dancing fencing.
Oh my God.
That's
Get
great.
the pairs. You're both armed, and you've got to knock everybody
And
off
they're
the.
both, you kind of need to be skilled with your feet.
Yes,
So
you have to
their
constantly be moving to
choreography.
the
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
choreography while you're fencing other ballroom dancers. I would pay good money. I would pay bad money. I
Okay.
would steal money to see
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
I would also do that. Who
Yeah.
would be the world champion?
Yeah.
Oh.
Comic book character that's the world champion.
What comic book? Oh God, I've got to think about that. I mean, There's so many options. Oh man.
I mean, Nightcrawler comes to mind because he's a swashbuckler.
yeah.
and
Nightcrawler would
graceful.
definitely a good.
Kitty and Nightcrawler would be the champions because she's the dancer and
She's
he's
the dancer and
swashbuckler.
he's the swashbuckler.
True,
Yeah.
true.
That is such a solid combination there. That's really solid.
That is a great combination.
I don't know if I'm gonna get better than
How do we
that.
beat this?
I'm so sorry.
It
I'm
came
so
from-
sorry.
Chess boxing comes from this?
Yes.
All right, so
Nicole
it comes from
trilogy.
this.
And
Yeah.
it's exactly what you think it is. They box and then they play chess. It's great.
Okay.
I'm gonna do something weird that's
Okay.
not gonna work, but I just want
Do
to
it.
see somebody
Do it.
Yes.
Can I do soccer and then you have to go play archery? So soccer, archery, because I feel like one is you're good with your
Soccer-tree?
feet, and the other is you have to have the hand-eye coordination. So you really need like
So,
an
like-
Is
all
this
around.
simultaneous or sequential?
No, I think you do one, and then
Okay.
it would be like it's almost like a triathlon. You got to get through one and then do the other.
Or like wherever when you score a goal, you drop and then you have to shoot to the other side to
oh
the targets
man,
and
that's
the
a
other
tough
goal.
one. I feel like
the better the goal.
You need a good all-around athlete, and I
Yeah.
feel like a Superman type would be good at that because he can do both.
Yeah.
Superman
Excellent
versus
vision,
Captain Marvel, I
excellent
would watch
control.
that.
Oh, I would 100% watch that.
I would watch
yeah.
that.
Okay, what's my hybrid sport?
Did you say who the heroes would be? that
Yeah,
were good?
so-
Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, I'm gonna
like,
do.
in my
I'm gonna
head
do
now.
Superman. I feel like he could.
Yeah,
He could
Superman,
nail
Captain
both.
Marvel.
Sorry,
He's
I
an
missed that.
all-around athlete.
The all-rounder, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm lost in thought. Trying
Yeah,
to.
this is really
It's
tough.
really deep.
I have one of the sports, but I'm trying to find the perfect thing to pair it with.
What's
So
one of them? We can help.
I really want to do like something with roller derby.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because the thing that came to mind, and I'm not a fan of it, but roller derby Connect 4, but I
No,
don't
you're in
know
the
the word.
I think that's great.
You're in the
We should
right
do that.
direction.
Rubik's Derby.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, roller
I
derby
love
and
that.
one like you've got like a Harry Potter seeker, and like the
Yeah,
seeker
yeah,
has
yeah.
to solve the Rubik's cube.
Oh, that's
and then everyone else is
Toss, you can toss the Rubik's Cube between people.
Yeah.
To keep it
Oh.
happy.
Oh my god!
good at
yes.
that. Who's gonna be good at that?
Oh my god!
You need-
Dazzler.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
There's
she's a
10
skater.
roller derby version of Dazzler.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, Harley Quinn would be
Oh.
great at it too.
Her,
She'd be the
her outfit.
defending.
Her outfit
Yeah.
for roller derby would be like stunning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
That's,
That's so
Okay.
good.
Roller
That
derby,
is
Rubik's
really
cube.
good. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
Rubik's derby.
Oh man, we've
Rubik's
got some
Derby.
great sports going,
I'm
guys.
feeling it.
and
Feeling it.
one more hybrid sport, which I would want to like.
Do you have one that you want to play with, like I,
I mean,
did?
what would we mash up with? Because I was trying to mash something up with Rubik's Cube, so you gave me my other half.
So Connect
What
4.
is with Quidditch?
Oh,
With-
Quidditch.
Well, but
and-
like Magic Quidditch or like Muggle
that's
Quidditch?
true.
Depends what we pair it with.
It's superhero. We can do Magic Quidditch. I mean, that's
Okay,
Yeah,
Magic
yeah,
We
Quidditch.
can do
Okay.
Magic Quidditch.
What? Oh! What's the other one you do with brooms? What's the other one you do with a broom?
What, broom hockey?
No, what's
Like-
the where you do the thing and
curling.
Curling and Quidditch. Yeah.
Oh my God, Quidditch curling.
Quidditch curling?
Oh,
Quidditch
Quidditch
curling.
curling sounds
There's
great.
so many rules
Was
to
that Dave?
understand.
Was that you, David?
Quidditch curling
was that
would
you
be
that said curling?
incredible.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm super into that.
Who
Who would be good
who would
at
be
that?
good at Quidditch curling? You need a lot of skills. Facility with magic would be helpful. You need keen eyes and very good control.
Kind of want to just.
Zatanna?
Yeah.
Like is
Zatanna
Zatanna
and
comes to
or
mind?
Hawkeye. I feel
Ooh,
like
Hawkeye
they could
has the
team up
precision.
well.
Kate
Yeah.
Bishop, Clint Barton, both of them?
Kate Bishop and Zatanna. Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Notice I didn't say Doctor Strange, because
Yeah.
I don't know that he would be good at Quidditch.
I would like to see Doctor Strange do curling though.
Yeah.
I would like
I
to
would
see
love
that.
to
I
see
feel like
that.
he's a
If
curler.
somebody could draw that for me, that fan art, I would love that.
Wong is just schooling him, just
Yeah,
being
just
like,
like-
it goes in
Wong-
that one. And
Wong would
that's
actually-
what I'm trying to do.
I actually think Wong would be better at curling. I think Doctor Strange would get frustrated
It's a
and
little
Yeah.
mean because his hands are not his strong point.
That's true.
Wow, that got
He- he-
dark.
he-
I'm sorry, but like we should maybe not challenge him to the physical. Like
He can be like a seeker type
Yes.
for Quidditch. Yeah.
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 Yeah, he can. And
This is a great question.
that was
That
an
was a
amazing
great-
question.
Yeah. That was
thank you,
incredible.
Nuke 418.
That was.
Well done. That was really
so
great.
I want
you
to see
wanna
all these sports and
Take us out? Like, I'm never
those
good at
were
this.
our hybrid sports and who we think would be the best at them. Please tweet us your choices. We are the Wednesday Club. I am Amy Dallen.
Michelle Bushman.
I'm Taliesin Jaffe.
I'm Matt Key.
And you can see us every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 on Geek and Study Twitch and Project X. Thank you for watching.
Hey.
Yay! So excited to tell everyone about our show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great question.
That was
so
super fun.
good.
Oh man,
It's like, oh man, I really have to
Rubik's.
think about that one.
I'm so excited by all these.
Sweet.
I'm going to write a story about dance fencing. I've got a whole
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
now.
Dance fencing is so good.
I'm trying to
Would
like
Dazzler's
stretch my
roller
legs right
derby
now.
name be? She needs like a cool, I don't know, man.
I can't remember if she canonically has one, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we'll make one.
Yeah, we'll think one up.
Yeah.
That's a good one to think.
Well, there's also Punk Dazzler, so you can kind of also, because remember there was
She
like
would be
the
all
ultimate
fit
Punk
for that.
Dazzler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although they kind of then did weird Punk Dazzler in the real. There's a whole.
Yeah,
I could have a whole episode on
Dazzler Time
Dazzler,
Wars.
man.
Yay!
I have feelings.
Sparks. Sparky.
Sparks.
For Dazzler.
I like Sparks.
I'm like
something.
jeans on wheels.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. It'll be a.
It has to be something super aggressive.
Yeah. Hi, is there anything else that we should grab from chat, by the way? Do there any questions that came up? in
KB
the-
Tibbs, by the way, says, "Oh man, Hawkeye and Zatanna, are you trying to get Clint another ex?"
I mean, maybe.
See,
inevitable.
that's the thing. He has great taste in women, so he would appreciate Zatanna.
Yeah.
He just can't
He
like
just,
make
would
things work
fumble all
long-term.
over
But
the
then,
place.
yeah, then he has great taste in women who also have great taste in men, so they don't date him.
Yeah, exactly.
He just have the best collection of like lady friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
He'd
feel
have
that.
a good girl squad when he needs one.
I definitely feel that.
So
What
after,
else did we bring in? Forgot to mention.
I think we're good.
Okay.
So with all of this, there have been
Yeah.
a few questions through the chat that are like, what's the difference between European and American comics, or like, how would like an American writer like what would they have to do to have a more European voice, or what would a European have to do to have a more American voice?
I mean,
Like, is there a way to answer? Do we know how to answer that?
There's not really a template, but I will say, like, the things you notice are that very heightened fantasy element, more so than, I mean, you have, like, your cosmic Marvel, but, like, I feel like European comics is like, oh, let's put it up to 11 with that.
You get your Elric of Meldebone and your
Yeah.
Elfquest and a bunch
Yeah.
of like the sort of high fantasy that has often flourished on the fringes of American comics has been allowed to like grow into the mainstream in
that's
European.
much more mainstream
And-
in France.
and it's important to remember, especially with the notion that there are European comic creators who write American comics and vice versa.
100%.
That these things, when we talk about style, we're not talking about these walls and these lines that we use to divide what is and what isn't an American comic. Or otherwise, it's more of a gravity.
Yeah.
And
More
there's
like a tendency, like an
It's a
artistic
things
tendency.
get things get
feeling.
pulled in one direction and
Yeah.
pulled in another, and
And
it's
part of that is to do with the way that they're published. So
Yeah.
the idea of telling self-contained stories that you can pick up in any order, like that's an interesting thing that sort of emerges naturally out of
Yeah.
doing weeklies for years and years and years, where you don't get like certain authors will sort of start to do interconnected universes, but it's going to happen in scattered separate works years apart, as opposed to sort of getting your 6 best friends to all collaborate on like a bunch of characters who know each other. Like that
Yeah.
emerged from the American publishing model in a way that didn't make a ton of sense. And like you do get different creators working on books here, but it's more in the classic way that like a comic strip would have a team that handed it off to another team eventually.
I will say that like a common thing is almost like a British television does. It's not like, hey, we need to keep making this issue forever. Like things have a beginning and an end. That's also very categorical of European comics. Is like they know when to end the story.
and it's not common
So-
for new people to take
Yeah.
over.
So before we go,
That's true. We haven't.
we have a very special little thing to give to Amy.
They're all nodding over my head in a really ominous way.
It's a pie!
It's a pie. It's a birthday pie.
Birthday pie! Happy birthday! Thank you, producer Liz.
Nom 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 nom.
Put your finger
it
in
smells
it.
amazing.
Put your finger in it and tell us
does.
what kind it is.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that is the customary.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think
didn't
you're all
know that
making
was
this
a
up,
thing. I
but-
thought that
If
was.
you pull out a plum and then yeah.
I feel like it's cherry.
Yes, cherry pie. Delicious.
My favorite.
Good choice. Was that you, Devin? Yeah. Oh, okay, we gotta go, I guess.
And I think we're being signaled that it's time to go.
Thank you for having me.
Weave is coming up
It's
in.
gonna be amazing.
It's
And thank you for joining us
Oh,
tonight.
thank you for having
Where
me,
can they
guys.
find you?
At Michelle Deirdre on Twitter, Michelle 2 L's DEIDRE. Please talk to me about comics or if you have recommendations. I'd love to hear them.
Yay. And we'll be back next week with Star Wars comics, I believe.
Yes.
Oh,
Star
my
Wars.
second
Star
favorite.
Wars.
I'll announce it. It's Katrina. It's my friend Katrina. She's amazing. You're gonna love her. And yeah, looking forward to next week.
Yay! Bye.
So bad.
Thanks for
Oh, my
watching the
God.
Wednesday Club.